Tonight on this episode, I am going to have someone on that I hold incredibly high esteem. He's powerlifting royalty and an absolute juggernaut as far as strength sports is concerned. Come from the most infamous powerlifting gym of all time, Westside Barbell, had a lot of success there, and then left there to go on to have even more success. Multiple world records in multiply powerlifting and raw powerlifting, all while managing to stay injury free. Built a massive community online for his YouTube channel and has helped countless people all around the world, including myself. I especially owe Matt quite a fair bit because me training on my own for all them years, I kind of leaned on his videos to help get me through and to help learn the sport of powerlifting. I'll be joined by a good friend of mine, Elias. So Elias built the powerlifting community we have here in Cairns, because before Elias there was no powerlifting community here in Cairns. He's ran countless competitions, some that I've participated myself in, and it's an honour to have him here with me to interview someone like Matt. I feel that it was a great interview. There's a lot to be learned. We get a bit of a deep dive into who Matt is as a person as well. We have some laughs, have some fun. So I hope you all stick around and enjoy this episode. Welcome back to another episode of For the Lads. And I'm here with my good friend Elias and powerlifting royalty, Matt Wenning.
What's happening?
We really appreciate you taking the time, Matt. If I could meet or interview anyone in the strength world, I'm not pulling your leg. It's 100% you. So for you to take
Thank
the
you.
time, man, it really means a
Yeah,
lot.
I was up already working on my PhD homework right now. So it's a nice break from having to do the research and work on these particular projects that we have to do.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I've been out of school, I don't know, since 2001, so I couldn't even imagine.
I've been out of school since '05, so starting back in October was a had high anxiety because the level of writing that they want you to do at a PhD level is not what a normal person deals with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
But I felt like that was the last thing that I needed to do to increase my credibility. And to be honest with you, with all the passive income streams that I have, I'm bored on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and I needed something to work towards.
Hang on a second. Did
I'm
you
very
say you needed to increase your credibility?
well.
I don't think you can do
Yeah,
that at
I
all.
mean, so yeah, there was a lot of shit that went down in the last year. I got contacted by a international university out of France that asked me if I'd be willing to write a book in turn for a professional doctorate, which is honorary, but it's still a great title. And so that gave me a big drive in 2021 to push this professional doctorate. And so I started working on it, finished the text, turned it into human kinetics. It has like close to 1,100 references. It's 400 pages. I dug through everything that Louie Simmons and Charles Poliquin and Verkhoshansky and Zatsiorsky had handed me, or I had dug in myself. A lot of stuff that's not on the internet, stuff that even Louie didn't have.
Wow.
But constructed all of it in a large hardback textbook. But I had no idea that human kinetics was going to take this long to do the editing and publication of it, because I wanted to give back to the community of lifting with a book that had all of Louie's ideals and the stuff that we used at Westside Barbell in a readable text that made sense and also was scientifically correct.
So you're getting into this to help you consolidate all your wealth of knowledge and then add on to it so
Yeah.
you can help push this book out. How far away do you reckon it will be until you're looking at
Well,
maybe
they just sent me back chapter 6, and from when I turned it in 23, there's 11 chapters. So they're a little over halfway done with the editing process, and I'm happy that they're taking that much time, effort, and
Yeah.
energy to clean it up. But it's funny when I get back the chapters from the editing to approve it, they're only changing maybe less than 10 words.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So, but a lot of it, what people don't realize is when you write a college level textbook, is that even your graphs have to be cleared or remade so that you're not copywriting graphs.
Yeah.
You know,
Sounds all too hectic for me. I mean,
yeah.
I'd love to read the book when it
Yeah,
comes out.
definitely.
But you think about it, I mean, all the people that have been involved in strength conditioning at the highest level, Louie, Charles, all these guys, they may have referenced things, but they never went to that level of academic proficiency, which I
Yeah.
think always clouded their ability to sell. And what I mean by sell is get other people to understand the training ideals that we were doing
Yeah.
and give it an academic baseline, because a lot of academic people would be like, well, Louis barely graduated high school, he might have a lot of experience in the weight room, but he doesn't have any college or master's or PhD level education, which I'm not saying is important to be a strength athlete,
Mm.
but I think it's important if you're trying to get a worldwide grasp on how to train and also how to recover.
Mm.
Because a lot of the stuff that was already done in East Germany, Bulgaria, and Russia, which I feel are the masters of understanding of how the human body is capable of training, they're really lost if you think about it. I mean, everybody wants to talk shit about how they know how they use those systems, but how many people have actually put together academic research and applied knowledge through a lifetime of understanding and breaking world records? And that the answer to that is me.
Yeah,
Well-
I mean, and that's a fantastic thing. I mean, I think you're right. There's so many people that have got the experience in the weight room, and then lack that academic knowledge,
Yeah.
which is I
Yeah,
mean,
and
fair play. I suppose not all of us have access to that level of academia.
Well, it's not even the access; it's just the sacrifice. And I understand. I don't put myself on a higher pillar than anyone, but I'm just willing to give up more. My 20s and 30s were completely consumed with the understanding of how to adapt and how to perform with maximal strength. I mean, I didn't, and I get flack for it all the time, but missing family members' weddings for training and competing and doing the things that I did that for a reason. And the reason was to understand how all of this worked. And I knew that if there were any kinks or road bumps in the way, that I had to smooth that out as much as possible if I wanted to contextualize and put myself into an East German or communist level system of understanding of how the human body responds to training. Because you and I, all of us well know that the limiting factor in the research today in strength conditioning and performance and power is controlling the subjects, because this research is being done in capitalist countries that don't control the athlete in a 24-hour time scale. They might change their training for 6 or 10 or 12 weeks or whatever, but they're not necessarily focusing on when they go to bed, when they go to sleep, how much they travel, controlling their stress, like all these things that are, in my opinion, more important in some ways than training itself, have to be controlled at all times if you want to reach your genetic potential best. And so I did that as close as I could to myself. And that was with a lot of sacrifice.
Did you through doing your doctorate and that, is there anything that you've learned that maybe made you reevaluate any past training methodologies or anything like that? Or is it just
No,
maybe
but I
giving
can
you
tell
a
you
little
right
bit
now, I
more?
mean, so just in the first semester, they force you to take ethics by itself. You have to take ethics with no other classes. And at the school that I go to, you go to school year round, but you don't take a lot of classes each semester. They want you to really absorb the information of each class. So it's not like an undergraduate where you might have 5 or 6 classes that you're taking at the same time. And this ethics class has really dug in to make me understand how I think when a difficult situation or an ethical situation pops up, and how do you deal with it, and realizing that there is no black and white, everything is gray. choices that we do have positive and negative outcomes. But what we try to do is we try to maximize the positives and minimize the negatives. But there's always a negative to a choice.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So that for training, I think, that's going to probably come in the future semesters when we get into muscle physiology and the biomechanics at the PhD level. But as of right now, it really makes me sit back and think about some of the different decisions and choices that I've made and how it affected other people. Because to be an amazing strength athlete, you have to have a level of what I would consider negative response ego, meaning like, I didn't think about my brother's feelings when I didn't go to his wedding, because I was focused on the task at hand. And that's good for being a world record holder, but bad for being a brother. Right.
But you wouldn't be Matt Wenning without that kind of attitude, though, either. You would have never achieved that level.
And that's what people don't understand. The people that gave me a lot of flack for that. And again, I give myself flack for it when I think about it. But my point being is that's what I was willing to give up to be my best, period, in the story. And so at that time, I wouldn't say now, but at that time, it was important for me to be able to put myself in a situation, because to be completely honest with both of you, I did not get to the strength level that I was at from pure genetics. It was 100% work and determination and focus and tunnel vision of the goal. 100%. I mean, I've ran into dozens of people that were stronger than me at one time or another. I just out-trained them and outlasted them and outsmarted them. That was it.
The outlasting
it wasn't because I was the Bo Jackson of powerlifting, right? I wasn't Larry Wheels. I wasn't, got Dan Green or guys like that, or Eric Lillibridge that lives over where you guys are at now.
Oh, true.
Is he?
Is he?
There you go.
Yeah, he's been living over there for at least 5 or 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Right.
There you go.
Maybe we need to track him down.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where, but I know he lives in Australia.
Wow. Oh, well, there you go.
Mate, can I just take a step back a little bit? Because a lot of the guys
Sure.
out there, especially some of the younger powerlifters that are coming, sort of up and coming and just entering the scene in the last sort of 5 years, let's say, might not know everything about you, and particularly the American scene. Can you give us a bit of an idea about who you are and some of the big achievements that you've had over the years?
Yeah. I started lifting when I was 12 and a half. A lot of that was to get away from my home, but where I grew up, because my dad had found out he was terminal and was dying of cancer. And by that time, it had affected his brain to where he didn't know who I was, or it was just a weird thing to go through at 12 years old. Like when you see your dad and he's shrinking away, but he doesn't know who you are, because he thinks you're still a little, like you still thinks you're 3 or 4 years old and you're 12, 13 now.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was just to go away to the gym, just to kind of get away from that home stress. And I ended up meeting 2 other guys that became my father figures throughout my teens and 20s, Tim Smith and Jim Dawson. Now, both of them were amazing lifters at their times. Tim Smith was a 500-pound raw bencher at 181 pounds body weight. And Jim Dawson was a 744 deadlifter at 220 body weight in 1969. Jeez. When the beginning of powerlifting was just starting. So he was one of the strongest deadlifters in the Midwest. And they just happened to be in my little fucking hillbilly hometown. Yeah. Right. And they see me in 6th grade and they think that I'm in high school because I'm already like 170. And they're like, hey, you need to start working out with us, And I was like, well, I want to be a bodybuilder. And they're like, you're not fucking built to be a bodybuilder. You're built to be a fucking powerlifter. But when you're 13, you don't know. And so long story short, I worked my way into the gym and they start training me and the training goes really well. I do my first bench press meet at 13, hit 250. There not soon thereafter hit over 300. And then, so the bench came very natural to me because I was a very good swimmer when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I wanted to be a better deadlifter and a squatter, but because of my car accident, I was hit on a bicycle by a drunk driver when I was 6 years old. And had to go through 3 leg surgeries, shattered pelvis, So I was bedridden and homeschooled the entire first grade. And I was able to walk with a cast on my right leg, second grade. So my legs were always behind. And that was, people would pick on me in school for my calves being small because, I couldn't move for a whole year. And so that created kind of a mental issue with wanting to fix the problems all the time. Like I never wanted to be the kid that was made fun of or the kid that, stood out because I had some kind of a deformity, which, I almost took it at an OCD level. Well, by the time I'm 12, 13, I'm walking in the grocery store with my mom and I see like a muscle and fitness magazine and I see these professional football players and they're showing their workouts, and I'm sure they're not what they're doing, but you know how it goes back then. Like you see a guy like Bo Jackson, or I'm trying to even think of the names, like Herschel Walker and these guys, like, and they're showing their workout stuff and they have these jacked legs. And I'm like, well, maybe if I go work out, my legs will get bigger and my calves will get bigger and I won't look like a fucking idiot in school. Right. I mean, that was the draw.
Yeah.
Because that's what the bodybuilding thing was coming from. And plus, I knew in seventh grade was the first year I was able to put pads on for football. Well, all the kids that were bigger or stronger or faster, they all wanted to play football. And I knew I had the upper body strength to do it, but my legs were way far behind. So I started squatting and deadlifting, which, I mean, who thinks of this at 12 and 13 years old? I mean, it was just by pure luck and basically being, partially insane. And so I run into Dawson, I run into Timmy, they start training me. By the time I'm 16, I'm winning Indiana State powerlifting meets. By the time I'm 19, I win my first worlds. And that's when I bench my first 500 and squat my first 700. Then I go to college, and I start the college ranks. And then by the time I'm a junior, I've broken all the collegiate national records in our drug-free IPF category. 2004 is my last year as a junior, and I end up going to men's nationals and placing, I think, second or third behind Brian Siders and a couple other guys that were like, freaks. And I remember that meet like it was yesterday because that was Brad Gillingham's last meet, and he was one of the best IPF super heavyweight lifters of that time. And I remember him and Siders battling it out, and Siders actually beat him. But yeah, so that was kind of my start of my pro career. I was already traveling back and forth to Westside Barbell. I had done an internship with the Indianapolis Colts. That was a connection through my mom. My mom had a lady that she worked with that her son was an accountant for the Colts and got me in with John Toring, which was the head strength coach for Peyton Manning and a lot of the other superstar Indianapolis Colts. And I remember going in there and, I was a strong, cocky kid, but then you get around these pro athletes and you're like, you're a fucking nobody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember being like, I want to be helping these kind of guys. Like, because I never saw or heard of a job like that. I mean, to be fair with you, this is pre-internet, and I don't even know that these pro football teams have a strength coach. I just think these guys might have a gym they go to and work out in the city or whatever. And that's when I realized that there was a tier to like strength conditioning, because the only strength coach I knew of was the one that was at the high school, and he was the football coach and he sucked. And then we had a pro football player that played for the Dolphins and the Bengals named Wade that was the head strength coach at Ball State, which was my home school. And those are the only two coaches that I knew that weren't personal trainers. They were strength coaches, right? And so my limited knowledge of understanding that there were multiple tiers and I could do this at different levels, it started to open my eyes to the possibilities of being a strength coach and using that as a profession. Well, all the while, when I hit that first teenage worlds and I win that first worlds, I get the testicles to message, or actually I see Louie Simmons at the Arnold Classic, because that's kind of the biggest draw in the Midwest, or it was back then. You drive to Columbus, Ohio, you go to the Arnold Classic, you see all the people you see in the magazines, the big powerlifters like George Halbert and all the Westside Barbell guys and everything were competing there. And Dave Tate and George Halbert and Kenny Patterson and Louie Simmons are walking out of the bench bash where George Halbert had just bench pressed 766 at 220. And I had just watched it on the screen. and they're all walking out, and they don't give two shits about being at the Arnold. They hate the fucking place. They don't want to talk to people because to them it's a bunch of posers. You know, it's like they're like the Hell's Angels of powerlifting.
Yeah.
And so imagine a 19-year-old kid wanting to walk up and talk to Louie when these guys look like they just got out of jail and would beat the shit out of you for, you know, for looking at them wrong.
Yeah.
And people would just get out of the way. And so my buddy Brad Sheward's nubbing me, and he's like, "You got to go talk to Louie because you're not going to get any stronger if you stay in Indiana." And, you know, at this time, I had just won a world championship as a teenager. So I'm thinking maybe I can break records. Like maybe I can do this at like the pro level. And so I finally get the sack to go up and talk to Louie, and he's asking me what my numbers are. And he's kind of looking me up and down. And he's like, "Well, get your fucking ass over here one of these days and you can come train with us, you know?" And I'm like,
Nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a 2.5 hour, almost 3 hour drive one way to get to Louie's gym. So I'm in another state, you know, and so about a week and a half later, I show up at Westside Barbell, and the crew's training there, and they train at 8 in the morning. Well, that's a 3 hour drive. So I'm getting up at 4:30 in the morning to go and train with the guys in Columbus, right? Having to borrow my mom's car, driving to another state. I mean, this is shit like a 19-year-old kid wouldn't have thought of back in 1999, right? Barely had cell phones, and I don't even think I had a cell phone at the time. And so I get over there, and I don't realize what I'm stepping into. So there's a huge guy there. His name is Tilt. He's a big 400 plus black guy that's just a fucking monster. And he was fat, but he was super strong too. And we got into doing those tricep rollbacks that Louie always liked to do off the floor.
Yeah.
And this was after we were doing our main lift. And we start with 60s or like 30 kg. So we start with 30 kg in each arm. Each of us get 10. Louie's like, "Go up another set." So we go up to like 70s or like 35 kg. We hit those for 10. We go up to like 40 kg. We go up to 50 kg. Now we're doing these with 100-pound dumbbells. And what I don't realize is that Louie is testing not only me, he's testing this guy Tilt to see what his competitive nature is, because if this teenage kid that underweighs him by 120 pounds beats his ass on this exercise, unbeknownst to me, he's going to throw him out of the gym. So we're doing this with 100-pound dumbbells, and I get like 8, and he gets like 6. Well, a week or so later, I come back to lift with him again, and the big guy's gone. And I'm like, "Louie, where's the guy I worked out with yesterday? You beat him the last time you were here. He's kicked out. You're taking his place."
Damn.
Yeah.
That was the competition level that we had at that gym. I mean, it was like
No wonder
that.
that was-
But then I also knew that I was always on the chopping block, and that, you know, I had to bring 100% every time I came to the gym.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you paid a gym due and like, you know, you just showed up and gave half-ass effort. It was like every day was a fucking war. And that's when I started to realize like that's probably what's going to make me a champion.
Definitely.
So yeah, so that started. I became a Westside Barbell member, which was a huge shakeup in the USAPL community because that was a drug-free community. And I was still going over to Westside Barbell drug-free, but you could imagine how many times I got drug tested because of my affiliation with Westside Barbell.
Oh, 100%.
Right? So they're busting my fucking ass. Every meet I'm taking a piss test. So long story short, I end up taking my undergrad to a master's degree. I end up squatting 900 my first year as a master's student. My second year, my final year as a master's student, I'm so drenched in school and as a GA, which means I worked for the athletics department for them to pay for my school. So I trained football, basketball, track. I was an assistant strength coach. And when that happened, I couldn't do a meet my last year because I was working on my thesis to graduate. And it was just so much work. You know, you're doing 50, 60 hours a week in the weight room to train athletes. And then you're also, you know, working on all your schoolwork at a master's level. And keep in mind, I'm going to the #1 school in exercise science in the world. Dr. Kramer, Dr. Kostel, Dr. Volek, Dr. Newton are all there. They're all doing shit that's insane because we have contracts with NASA. We're working with astronauts and getting all this big these big contracts and grant money to do all these strength and power researches. Because a lot of people don't know is like when you go up into outer space for like 7 to 10 days, you lose anywhere from 30 to 50% of your strength because you're not in gravity anymore. It's just gone. And so we were trying to figure out how do these guys stay in shape in the shuttle, right? And so that was kind of my coolest thing I think I did in school as far as that is concerned. As soon as I graduate, I literally within the week pack up and move to Columbus, Ohio, full time to train at Westside Barbell. That within 8 months, I squat 1,003. Keeping in mind, I'm just out of school. So I hit my first 1,000 squat in Las Vegas at the APF seniors. I go to the WPO, which was the biggest meet at the time. And that's when the pro career started. So 2008, I break my first world record total. 2009, I best that total and best my squat. 2010 was a shaky year because I started my business. And so that was kind of taking over a little bit of my timing. So that's when the gym started. And I had separated, I mean, without getting into all the shit with Louie Simmons, if people want to watch the whole debacle on that, you can watch Westside versus the World documentary that's free on YouTube, and you can see the shit that Louie and I went through and what ended up happening with all that. But it's a long story to go into, but they were pretty factual in the documentary. So if you guys want to check that out, you can. And then 2011 is when I'm the lightest man to squat 1,200 pounds. But there was goods and bads to that. So I squat that 1,200 right at 300 pounds body weight. So we're doing a 4 times body weight squat at 300 pounds. And when I picked that weight up out of the rack, I remember the distinct feeling of feeling my femurs actually bow. I don't know what bone flexing, I don't know how to describe what that feels like.
Yeah, that's brutal.
But it was where my testicles started to disappear with doing those kind of weights. You know, it's like, it's one thing when you get your muscle a little pulled or you get a little strain here and there. And it's another thing when you feel your skeleton wanting to blow fucking apart.
Yeah.
And so that's when I was kind of like, man, I need to back this down because I'm going to get fucking like, I'm not going to be able to walk. And so my next step was, I remember George Halbert calling me. He goes, hey, what do you feel about trying to work on benching 600 raw? You know, because you got to remember at this time, everything was gear. Like,
What
you know, if
year
you wanted to
is
lift
this?
it,
Sorry, Dave.
2012.
2012.
2011, 2012. And you could see it in Powerlifting USA and a lot of the powerlifting things as everything was starting to transition to raw, right? The equipped lifting was, the numbers were getting crazy and people wanted something they could relate to. You know, you walk around the grocery store and somebody sees that you work out and you tell them you bench 850 pounds.
Yeah.
It doesn't relate to people.
No.
But if you bench 500 or 600 pounds raw, it's almost more impressive because they can relate to the weight. You know what I mean? Like a normal lifter might, if a good guy in a gym benches 315, everybody's, wow, you're pretty strong. You know, so 2 times that is crazy, but like 3 times that is like unfathomable and people just can't understand the math.
I think
So-
with an average person as well, once you get to certain numbers, like it doesn't matter how much further it gets, it just seems ridiculous to the average person, you know, like
Yeah.
to an average person, if you say I squat 800 pounds or 1,100 pounds, to them, it ain't going to register the difference. They're just going to think, oh, holy shit, you know.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you tell somebody, I mean, I'll walk into a place now and somebody asks me, hey, how much do you bench? You're fucking huge. And I'm like, I just tell them 405 because that's still crazy as shit to them and they don't know any different.
Yeah.
You know, when I tell them 600, it's kind of like way too crazy. So unless somebody's an avid lifter and I can tell they put the time, effort, energy into it, there's no sense in going over 405 when you're talking to people because they just don't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So I did that. And then, so George Halbert, a 12-time world record in the bench press, he wants to break Mike McDonald's bench press record at 198, which was 582 or 580. It was 580 something. And he's like, I need a training partner to train for this because we were all coming out of gear. And I'm like, well, fuck it, I'll do it, you know? And so we end up training for the meet. George ends up getting injured. And then I benched my first 600. Now, you got to remember, this is 2012. So when I benched 600 pounds, I only weighed 294. And I would think I was only the 13th guy ever to do it. So that was a huge like nail in the coffin with Louie and I's relationship, because now I'm doing raw shit and I'm getting a lot of credibility because I'm out of a bench shirt, right? And people are like, oh shit, he really is strong without any of this equipment.
Yeah.
So 2013, I signed up for my first completely raw powerlifting meet, and no sleeves either. I just posted that video, I think on my Instagram channel. You guys might have seen it, but I get to the meet and don't even realize it's USPA and it's walked out. So I got, not only do I have to walk out the lift, I'm only wearing a belt and a singlet. And I don't, the sleeve stuff I didn't really get. I'm like, just go completely knee, sleeveless, wrapless, 100% just skin and belt, right?
Mm.
And so I end up hitting the second highest squat of all time raw. And Scott Weech had the world record at 826. Now, keep in mind, Don Reinhold had the world record at super heavyweight at 910. And Kurt Kowalski, Captain Kirk, had the world record squat at the next weight class down at like 816. So Scott Weech was sitting at 826. And so then I hit right under 800 at that meet, walked out. And I'm like, I think I can break the world record squat raw. So I bust my ass, design all my training protocols, and I show up at Raw Unity, which was in Florida. And that's when I broke the world record squat. And then I benched 606 in a full contest. So I'm almost at a 1,500 pound subtotal, with no person under super heavyweight had ever really done.
Mm.
And that's when I started to get really popular in the Raw scene. This is 2014. 2015, I barely miss a 912. I can't remember the kilo, 912 squat. And so that kind of fucked my whole meet up. But 16, I came back and I broke the world record total and the world record squat. So I did 865 and a half on a second attempt. And then I benched 611. So now I'm doing 865 and a 611 bench in the same meet. But at that point, I'm older. I'm like in my mid 30s, and I could tell no matter what I did, my deadlift was starting to come down. I just couldn't keep it.
True.
The deadlift was the one exercise I just couldn't figure out. It was an enigma for me, and a lot of it was because I just wasn't built to deadlift. At 6'1", with shorter arms, better built to bench. It was a long pull, and the bar was a solid 4.5 inches above my crotch at lockout.
Shit.
So there was not really a lot of leverage that I had in the deadlift. So to pull 800, I had done it a couple of times in meets, but I couldn't hold on to it in my mid 30s. And then after I'd done that, I tried one more meet, and my body was just telling me it was time to stop, and I retired at 38. So I go back into just training normal. I lean out a little bit more. I get down to the 280s for about 100, and I guess that'd be 125 kg for you guys, maybe. I get down to that weight, and Mike O'Hearn challenges me. We've been friends a long time. He's like, how many times do you think you can squat 500? And I'm like, I don't know, 20. And he goes, well, let's challenge it. He goes, I'll do it next week, and you do it the week after. And I want you to talk shit to me on the internet, right? Because it's kind of, I think a lot of people don't understand, like, some of these guys are in cahoots and they're playing off of each other just to get the views up.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, dude, I'll beat your fucking ass. I don't have a problem with that, And so he ends up doing like 16, and I do like 20.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember. I think Bill Kazmaier gets a hold of me, and we've been friends a long time, and we have a lot of mutual respect. Obviously, everybody respects Bill Kazmaier, and the dude's a fucking legend, right?
Definitely.
But he respected me because he saw me do it in equipped, and then saw me do it raw, and then saw me get these degrees, and if you see on my website, on a couple of clicks, you can look on, I think on online coaching, we have an excerpt that Kazmaier spoke very highly of me. But long story short, he goes, you know how close you are to breaking Tom Platz's squat record?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what squat record? Because I didn't know anything about it. And he goes, you got to do like 520 for 24, and you will beat Tom Platz's all-time squat record that nobody's been able to touch. And by the way, I think because I was at that contest when it happened, that at least one of the plates was fake.
Oh, true.
And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, and he was wearing a fucking squat suit when he was doing it. You can totally beat him. And I'm like, shit. So now I got a goal, right? It's not a world record, like as far as powerlifting is concerned, but it's something that's totally insane.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this might be fun, because at this time I'd already developed the Wenning Warmups. I was already doing sets of 25 for a lot of different stuff before I'd even do the compound movement, because to maintain work capacity, right? And so it was kind of like, well, let's see what I can do. So for about 2 months, I started to train for it. So what I would do was at the end of a workout, I did the first week, I did 135 for 25, right? No big deal. Then the next week, I do 185 for 25. Then the next week, I do just to kind of get because in a conjugate system, I didn't squat with a straight bar every week. So I had to get comfortable being under that much pressure with the bar on my back consistently in order to kind of, get the specificity out of the training. Next week, I do 225. Next week, I do 275. Then I take a week off. Then I come back and do 315. And that's when I'm like, okay, we're just going to jump 200 and whatever pounds, 205 pounds, and we're going to go for it next week. So I deload, I recover, eat a little bit more calories to get up to about 291, I think. And I do 520 for 24.
Nice.
And when I did that, I noticed that, like you guys have all strained your asses off before, I'm sure, enough to get sick. And so I get that done. I set the bar in the rack, and the video doesn't show it, but I get on the floor and I can't breathe, and I can feel my heart rate's just totally crazy for maybe about 15 minutes. And I'm in pretty good shape. So I'm thinking like, what the fuck? Like, and I remember going home, I take a shower and I'm closing my eyes, washing my hair, and I can just feel my body bobbling. And I'm like, something's not right. And so I end up going to the doctor, and they run some more tests. And that's when I noticed that my kidneys were starting to shut off. And so I go to a kidney specialist, and he's like, I'm going to tell you flat out. He goes, I've never seen anything like this. He goes, it appears that your body's lived in rhabdo for about 20 years.
Shit.
And you've created some damage in your kidneys. And I was like, well, yeah, when I was younger and squatting those big weights, I was popping blood vessels in my skull and my eyes. Well, what people don't realize is when you do that, you're popping that shit around your kidneys too, because they're real small, little tiny vessels, and they get scarred up, and then they don't work well. And so they ended up, doing some different measures. I went and got some stem cells, and we stabilized the problem. But yeah, it was a weird wake up call. And he goes, honestly, I've never seen anybody. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I didn't take anabolics to get to that level, but I was always cautious with the amount that I took, and it was always under doctor prescription. I wasn't just blasting bathtub shit. You know what I mean? I was usually floating right around 1,000 in my testosterone levels, which high natural is 900. So, and people won't believe that. And I know that that's going to get a lot of flack, but it's true. I never really went above 1,000, because if I did, I tried it a couple of times. I felt like shit. I ended up getting the flu. I get sinus infections because my blood pressure was too high. And then I just couldn't take anymore. So I just floated right at 1,000, enough to recover from the training. And that was all I was ever able to take. It felt like, because I had to feel athletic to do those numbers. And so that kind of created a different scenario. And I started dropping some more weight down. Now I'm like 247. And I ended up just squatting 700 again. And it was pretty easy about a month ago. I benched 500 around, I think, July. And so my strength has stayed up there pretty well with losing 60 pounds of body weight, roughly. And now I'm 46. But so I just needed a new goal. So I started attacking the PhD, and that's kind of how all that shit went.
Nice. Well, I really appreciate that story, man.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
I mean, transparency, if you're going to do shit that's that insane, you're going to have to take anabolics.
Definitely,
but
100%.
doing it at a regimented medical level is much different than just taking whatever you need to take to think that that's what you need. And a lot of people, it's like anything else, right? So it's just like with training, more isn't always more. Sometimes less is more. And you got to find that optimal balance,
I think that's
and we all
really
react
good
differently to
message for some
different
of the
things.
younger guys too.
Definitely.
Dude,
especially
yeah.
this
I
day
mean,
and
if you're taking anabolics and you're taking, performance enhancing substances and you're not getting regular blood work, you're just a fucking dumbass.
Yeah.
Because you got to watch your hematocrit, you got to watch your hemoglobin, you got to watch your kidney function, and you got to watch your liver enzyme values. And if you're not keeping constant contact with that stuff, you might be creating a very slippery slope that you can't come back from.
No, for sure.
Right.
And when you're giving your different levels, like in Australia, it's measured differently. So I don't know what 1,000 would be.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how it's measured, but
so in our range in America, 250 is low and 900 is natural high.
Yeah. And
So mine
natural.
right now is like mine's like 625, but I have to supplement to maintain that because, you know, well, there's a handful of reasons. One, and it goes into a completely different story, so I'll try to cliff note it. But at 23, I just break all the American drug-free national records. And I remember my mom being a nurse practitioner. I'm like, Mom, I'm not recovering. I don't feel well. And she's like, well, no shit, motherfucker. You're the strongest junior in the country and you train like a fucking psycho. And I'm like, yeah, but can you take me to an endocrinologist? Because I want to see what my hormone levels are. Because a basic blood panel doesn't measure that shit. They
No.
measure glucose and they measure, EGFR and a handful of other things, and all that looked really good. Well, the doctor comes back after the testing and goes, your testosterone natural is 50 pounds or 50 points over low. So I was only 300, like 300, 310, which was low as shit. I should have been 700, 800 at that age,
Definitely.
at least. And so that's when the TRT shit started, and I dropped training in the USAPL or the IPF, and I switched over to the pro ranks.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't going to cheat it out, Like, to me, I could supplement and still be under the range. And that's what I think a lot of other people don't understand. Like in the IPF, for example, which I'm sure is still big in Australia, but it's big all around the world. The IPF, they can't really run a test on you unless if you're taking cypionate or ethionate, if you're under 900, they can't legally say you're on anabolic steroids. So is that optimizing, or is that cheating? Right. So if somebody's 500 and they take a half a cc a week of testosterone to be 850 and they don't start throwing red flags until 900, is that cheating?
Look, I think from my perspective, I've come from a drug-free background and run dozens and dozens of competitions over the years as a meet director. All of those drug tested, some of them part of the IPF, no longer part of the IPF at the moment. It's a new federation called APL in Australia, but also they run both. They run a drug-tested division and an untested or open division.
Yeah, sure.
And so I think if you're going to be on anything at all, you're going to go over in the open division.
Absolutely.
I think
and I agree with that too.
Tested, then you should just be exactly the way you are.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that as a meet director and personally as your opinion, but I think that people thinking that the IPF guys at the top are drug free is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's no way. Like, there's no way that those guys are hitting those numbers drug free.
Yeah.
No, it's the same thing with the Olympics, right? Like, you telling me that the top sprinters that are beating Ben Johnson's number that he did as a Canadian in 1988 and got busted for taking Winstrol, and now they're running faster than he ran, and they're supposedly drug free.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Come on, let's get fucking real here, right?
It's just drug tested. That's all it means, If people can find a way around it.
Oh, of course, and people will.
Yeah, the drugs will always stay more advanced than the testing, right? So, and I'm not saying that to degrade anybody's work ethic or anything of that nature, but I think we have to keep realistic goals for people.
Yeah.
Right. And once you get to a world-class level, we have to assume that everyone's taking something. I mean, you just have to assume that to make sure that I think that your standards are correct. Right. I think telling some kid that they can deadlift 900 pounds drug-free is probably not a good goal to have.
It's like, I understand, like, the competition side of things 100%, but with bodybuilders and whatnot, I understand that they've got a lot of sponsors and stuff like that, so that maybe sometimes they don't want to be open about it because it can affect them financially. But if
absolutely.
it's not going to affect you financially, you got no reason to hide it. But so I get it.
Yeah.
It just depends on
what. I feel like in powerlifting, like in this sport particularly, powerlifting. I mean, I know other sports like Olympic sports might not be the same, but we've got outlets for both.
Yeah.
You've got pro powerlifting and you've got drug-tested powerlifting. I think if anyone's taken any drugs in drug-tested powerlifting, I think I would call that out as cheating. Because we have avenues. We've got high-level international competitions for untested lifters, and we have the same on the drug-tested side. So I don't know. Not
my
every
thought
sport's
process
like that.
is
That's right.
Yeah, my thought process is this, and again, it's a slippery area. We don't have black and white, right? I don't think in almost any situation. But if somebody's optimized, meaning that they're still under what someone else could be naturally, I think we have to ask ourselves if that's cheating. I don't know. I mean, in our opinion, I think yes, but in reality, if they're within the guidelines of what that standard has been set, but they're just optimized.
Mm.
I don't know if that's cheating or not. I mean, I think in some ways it is, and in some ways it's not, right? Like, so it's interesting that, and again, we don't have to go into all that, but it's like, it's difficult, right? Because you're going to hit a potential point. Now, with that being said, we have to ask ourselves before, let's say the younger kids are deciding whether they want to do performance enhancing drugs or not. Have you already optimized every possible scenario naturally before you even make that decision, right?
Yeah.
Are you sleeping 8, 9, 10 hours a day? Or is your diet dialed in? Is your stress management good? Is your training any fucking good? Because now what I find is that, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, because we're all a little bit older, I think guys in the early 2000s were training fucking smarter than the guys train now. Because the guys that had the opinions and the voices usually were more credible. This is what I mean. If you were going to write an article in a website, right, you had to be a Charles Poliquin, a Louie Simmons, or someone of that nature to get your name out and be popular back before social media. Now you get a sponsorship, you get a lot of views, and you have really good editing with your videos. People think you're an expert and you don't know a fucking thing.
That's so
So
true.
you had to earn your respect back in the day a little bit more. Therefore, there was better information out there to the average person on how to train smarter, in my opinion.
Oh,
We have
absolutely.
more
I
information
agree.
now on the internet, but the problem is it's all hidden through a ton of garbage.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
the
I sort of
10%
look
of
at it
info,
like it's like finding a needle in a haystack.
exactly. Whereas back then, the needle, the haystack was a lot smaller because if you had a voice, you probably had to go through a filtration system to be considered an authority.
Nah,
I'm not
definitely.
saying it was always true. I'm just saying most of the time. Like you picked up a Powerlifting USA, Lambert, the guy that ran Powerlifting USA, which I'm sure you guys remember that magazine, he wasn't going to put a dillweed in there talking about training very often.
Yeah. There's more
It was
shit to
usually
sort
guys like
through.
Dr. Ken Listener and Louie
Yeah.
Simmons and these guys that had backgrounds, had trained legends, and like they were showing workouts from Kazmaier and workouts from Larry Pacifico, the guys that actually did real shit, right? And now we got dudes that haven't done anything and they got 10 million followers and everybody thinks that they're an expert. It's unreal,
It's funny because over the years, because I run a pub, right, and over the years I've met a lot of people that are into weightlifting and that, and would ask me or ask advice to me, and I would just go, here you go, check out Matt Wenning, check his videos, look up Dave Tate, Elite FTS, watch their
Yeah.
stuff, learn from them, forget the rest. Outside of that, I would always say some of Athlean X's supplementary exercises are pretty good. But if you're going to learn how to lift, if you want to learn how to lift heavy, watch them videos, watch their stuff.
Well, what a lot of people don't realize is the guys that look the best on the internet tend to have the most skeletal problems. Not naming any names, but a lot of the dudes that we're considering talking about right now have torn labrums, torn ACLs, bad lower backs, but they look good, so everybody thinks they're an expert. What about the guy that's never really been hurt
Yeah.
and's done elite things? Those are the guys that tend to
Definitely.
have, in my opinion, more respect. So there's 3 pillars to a stool, right? Like a stool can stand on 4 pillars, it can stand on 3, but it can't stand on 2. And the 3 pillars, in my opinion, are how strong you got, and I'm talking strength training, how strong you are, how long you were able to sustain the strength, and your level of education. If you look at a person that you're trying to take information from in the strength realm and they are missing one of those 3, I'm not saying what they're saying is wrong, but you might want to reconsider utilizing their information.
Yeah, definitely. Do you reckon a part of that could be just the world we live in today with, with Instagram and, you've got to max out all the time for clicks? That could lead to a lot of the problems some of these guys have.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because everybody's doing it for attention versus for long-term preparation, right? And that's really destroyed a lot of the long-term periodization models of understanding how do you train, how do you get better, and how do you sustain that without increasing mileage. Because in this new generation, they're all like bottle rockets, they're fireworks. They get lit, they explode, they're gone. because their volume, intensity, durations, and workout methods are way too intense and they're way too short lasted, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So I thought I'd circle around because we were talking about equipped lifting the other day, and
Yeah.
yeah, I thought we would maybe we would circle back around to that. Maybe and Elias and I were talking about the banded bench shirts because we've messed around with a bit of equipped lifting. Obviously, nothing comparable to what you've done, but we were just talking about like, with your normal bench shirts, you've kind of got to earn it. You got to learn the groove. You got to get the shirt right. I mean, with the banded shirt, it seems like it's a little bit too easy. I just thought I'd get your opinion. Like, again, I'm not disrespecting anyone that's put up big weight. If you put up big weight, either way, you got my respect. But
Sure.
yeah, I thought I'd ask
Well,
you what you think about
there's
that.
multiple avenues of thought on that. I think the old school side of me says, that's insane. I mean, look at how many guys currently today have bench pressed 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
We all know that that's not humanly possible, right?
Mm.
But if we also look back at the guys that did in the 8s and 9s and even the 1000s 10, 15 years ago, without a bench shirt, those guys were fucking yoked. Ryan Kennelly is one name that absolutely comes
Absolute
to
monster,
Yeah.
my mindset. 6'2", 340 pounds with a fucking 8-pack of abs and like 23-inch arms. And I
Just an
watched that guy
animal as
bench
well.
press. I watched him bench press 600 for reps when he could do 800 in a shirt. That
Fuck.
makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But now what we got is these new shirts. You see these guys take their shirts off and they look like professional hot dog eaters. And again, I'm not taking away on the other side of that context. I'm not taking away the fact that somebody has the testicles to put 1,000 pounds over their face. Like, regardless of whether the shirt's doing the work or not, as soon as that forearm snaps, you and I both know that a normal human being is not going to catch that weight going into your throat.
Fuck no. Yeah.
And I don't think what people realize, like what I had to realize under that 1,200-pound squat, is the fact that no matter how impressive that is, no matter how badass that is, when you retire in 6 months, nobody will fucking care, because you will not be a Bill Kazmaier, you will not be an Ed Cohen, and you will not be a Mike Bridges that somebody talks about in 10 or 15 years from now.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, I think, is going to happen to the equipped multiply guys, and they don't get that. I got it pretty right at the tail end of my career to be able to switch over to raw and create some numbers that I felt no matter what your views were on equipped or raw, I was able to do both. And that's why I did it. I did it because I had put in 25 plus years of work into the powerlifting community and getting strong myself. And I wanted those numbers to mean something in 20 years when I retired. And I think that what you're seeing now with the views that our bigger meets over here, like the WPO get, the WPO live stream of, our top equipped lifters was getting 1,000 or like 1,400 views on a live stream. Now, to put this in point, yesterday on my bench press live YouTube video, I had 30,000 viewers.
Wow. I was one of them briefly. I bet I had to run,
Yeah.
but yeah, I was watching it.
Yeah, but my point being is, how in the hell is a training session that I'm doing getting 30,000?
Yeah.
And I'm not even a massive name. I'm an okay name. Like, I got 120,000 on YouTube, and ever since my Instagram channel got cut down for calling out a fat ass on being an online coach, I lost like 250,000 followers on that, right?
Oh shit.
But my point being is, I only got 30,000 followers on Instagram. So how is it that I have 30,000 views on a YouTube live and the top multiply meet in the world only has 12, 13, 1,400?
I think it's a bit of a
Nobody
lost, I think
cares
it's a bit of a
anymore.
lost art. Nobody really cares about. I mean, in Australia,
No.
From our experience, we just don't see equipped lifting anymore at all.
I was probably
No.
like the only one that ever.
Yeah, I mean, I dabbled a little bit in a bench shirt with you years ago.
Yeah.
But
Well-
really, like on a competition level, we don't see any.
Well, here's what's
lifters.
funny. And again, it's just my opinion, but somebody sent me a video and I'm very hesitant to post it because I don't know if you guys have been on my Instagram channel lately, but I did a couple videos on some people squatting 4 inches above parallel in equipment. And I'm like, stop ruining the sport pretty much, right? And And I got, for 99% of the people messaged me back and was like, thank God somebody's calling this out, especially somebody as whatever they consider my pull to be, which I would say is fairly minimal. What I think really put the nail in the hammer wasn't the bench shirt and wasn't the squat suit. It's the fact that we have guys benching, or I'm sorry, totaling 3,000 pounds with a 750-pound deadlift. And then we got another guy that's totaling 2,600 pounds with over a 1,050 deadlift. Because the bench and the squat, okay, whatever. We know that those pieces of equipment really make a big difference. But the deadlift, you can put on the baddest deadlift suit in the world. And if you're lucky, if it gives you 30 to 50 pounds. And I'm saying it might even take it away. Because the problem is you can't get in a good position if it's tight enough down when you grab the bar. So when you're seeing these raw guys deadlifting over 1,000 pounds at these meets, and then you see these equipped guys not even deadlifting 800, you know something's wrong, right? And so that's what I think, in my opinion, at least as an educated person that's been on both sides of the fence, and I'm not a good deadlifter, but I think seeing that is really what starts to churn your mind on what real strength might be, right? And again, it's like that, what I call the Ryan Kennelly effect. If you bench press 1,000 in a shirt and you take that shirt off and look like Ryan Kennelly, you still have all my respect, because a lot of that you're doing is muscle mass. When you take your shirt off and you look like Jimmy Kolb, I don't really give a fuck. Yeah. I mean, that's just how I am, you know?
No, fair. Honestly, like, the guys that got me into powerlifting, they were like equipped lifters. So my first introduction into powerlifting was Westside Barbell, and I loved it. I thought it was badass. So, like you were talking about with the burst blood vessels and the blood coming out of the eyes and nose.
Yeah, but you're a bit fucking crazy too, man.
Yeah, a little bit. But I was like, that's 100% what I.
Yeah, it's fucking primal.
Yeah, man, 100%. I was just like.
But you got to remember, back in the days that those guys taught you that, there was no pro raw ranks.
Yeah.
There was only pro equipped. So the draw was equippment.
Yeah, it was right. I started right as raw lifting was becoming a thing. So
got it.
Like 2012, because I started kind of late, and the last couple of years I've kind of dropped off just because I work stupid hours and.
Man, almost everybody I know that lives in Australia works insane schedules.
Yeah.
Like, you guys get worked to death.
We do.
Yeah. I work 70 hours a week, night shift, 7 days a week for 3.5 years.
Bro.
The only time I've taken off, I took, not too long ago, I took 2 weeks off to go overseas so my wife could see her family. Another time I got staph infection. Basically because I took a lot of people. We deal with a lot of trouble at work, so I scratched my knee up, taking people down. I got staph infection. I had a day off.
You're working those amount of hours. Your immune system's garbage too, you know?
I feel like shit, bro. But we're going to change that soon. But,
good.
Yeah.
We need to get James back in the gym, man.
I miss it, bro. And I got good ways. I got a foul temper. And the gym helps, you know.
So I know. I'd be in fucking prison if I wouldn't have found lifting. I can tell you that.
I got to be careful not to end up there myself. But this is something I was going to ask you, because my for me personally, like, I don't know if maybe my bench days might be over, because I've torn tendons in the rotator cuff a few times. And last time it was like with a light weight as well. It was only 100 kilos I was doing for reps, and then, like, you know, it feels like a zipper, you know, and just like, you know, aches all the time. And I went and seen a specialist, and he pretty much said, "Oh, well, you're getting old." And I'm like, "Well, like, I paid you to tell me that. You know, you're gonna give me any better advice?" So I don't know. You know, I still got to do something, but. Yeah, the bench is.
Well, and I think you're running into the same problem that I see over here on a consistent basis. It's all fun and games until you start collecting injuries where you can't train anymore, and that's why your training should at least be 50% evolved into making sure that your training is sustainable. Right? People want to look at the top number, or they want to look at how hard they can push. Well, I want to look and see how long you can sustain it. Again, those 3 bar stool, right? The 3 pillars on the bar stool. And that's the thing is I think with powerlifting, it tends to start tunnel visioning you into an end number versus actually fixing the problems that are there that are just ticking time bombs for most people.
No, definitely.
Right.
Something I wish I thought about a bit more a few years ago, but that's life.
Well, that's why I try to put out those videos as much as I can, but trying to talk to people that are in their early 20s is like talking to a fucking brick wall. So
I think I like I said, I watched a lot of your stuff, but in the beginning, I kind of, I was sort of doing my own thing, and maybe
the hardest part I
overuse
think with
injuries a
most
bit.
people is we think that us doing the work is going to be the key to the success, and in reality what we should be looking at, it's weird, powerlifting is this way and it's been this way since forever, but nobody steps back and goes, hey, before I start this process or this goal, maybe I should go talk to the veterans that I can learn before I hit mistakes instead of hitting the same mistakes myself. So what we find is that we're one of the few sports that makes the same goddamn mistakes over and over and over again every generation because we don't learn from the elders. I remember driving over and Louie telling me, stop doing any isolated bicep work if you want to keep your shoulders healthy. And I'm thinking, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? But I didn't ask questions. I just did it. And 30 years later, my shoulders are still perfect. Yeah. And I've bench pressed 600 pounds multiple times in competition and over 800 in a shirt. So something was there. Definitely. Right. And so, again, it's like listening to people that had the injuries, that made the mistakes, and then rerouting your training to not have those issues. And it's funny, I even posted a video on not doing direct bicep work on my Instagram and Facebook. And then I even cited 1 or 2 studies showing bicep inflammation and its tendency to cause shoulder problems. And people still thought I was a fucking idiot.
No, yeah, makes sense.
You can't fix retarded.
Makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I was never a great lifter to start with, but I did a little bit, and I did enough to become a coach because I enjoy helping people more than I was any good at lifting.
Yeah, sure.
Turned out I was pretty good at helping people, so I've run a successful business for 11 years now, coaching powerlifting and strength stuff. But recently, I've got into arm wrestling, which is a interesting sport. And
yeah, it seems like a lot of people convert over to that.
Yeah, and there's shitloads of direct bicep work, and my bench sucks now.
Well, the problem is that because you're doing rotational work instead of pressing work, the muscles and how they're reactive are going to be a little bit different, right? And so I think with that goal is a different set of responsibilities on how you train. But to be completely fair with you, from at least the anecdotal viewpoint that I've seen, I wouldn't want a lot of top professional arm wrestlers' posture.
No, hell no.
Like they're very anteriorly dominant, shoulder anteriorly rolled, right? It doesn't look good on their cervical neck spine or their shoulder. Exactly. Yeah. So again, you're starting to slowly just increase that gravitational anterior pull to fuck your posture up, which I imagine over time, when the guys get older, you're going to start seeing a lot of neck and pulmonary issues because if you read a lot, posture has everything to do with how your heart and lungs function. So again, I think some of that is need of the sport, but balancing the longevity of your body's skeletal function is key. And I think a lot of those guys don't necessarily think about that very much until, they're 5 or 10 years out of competition. And now you have all these accumulative problems that probably could have been fixed if you were training smart.
Fair. Like the rolled shoulders, that's kind of like a bench specialist. Like they get that. Yeah. I thought I'd ask as well, because obviously being a big fan of Westside, do you have any like crazy stories from Westside Barbell, back in the day? Because I've heard that you used to punch on there and like all sorts of shenanigans would go on,
Yeah. I remember Dave Tate's squat session. I had lifted in this crew before, so I didn't get wrapped up in it, thank God. but Dave and I want to believe Chuck Vogelpool were having basically a see who taps out first squat session. And so what they would do was they didn't do it by increasing weight. They did it by how many sets. And by they were doing singles or doubles at that time. And by set 22, I had to go fucking home. It was something insane. They were doing like over 20 sets of squats just to see who would puke or who would give up first.
Yeah.
And and sometimes, like I said, sometimes that level of competitiveness is an advantage, and sometimes it's a massive disadvantage. I can tell you this: for the handful of years, which were almost 10, that I was at Westside Barbell, at least as either a part-time member or a full-time member, I saw more impressive things in the gym at Westside Barbell than I did in competition, which tells you that the training could have been better, meaning that we would get so competitive in the gym, we'd forget we had a meet in 6 weeks and we'd fry ourselves to the fucking ground. Right. But probably a couple of the most impressive things that I ever saw was Chuck Vogelpool beating Vlad Hasselhoff, the squatter. They were doing 2 blues and a silver, which is 550 pounds of band tension. And Chuck had 850 pounds in weight, and Vlad could not get it. And I remember Vlad trying it because he was so mad that Chuck beat him. Vlad tried it 3 fucking times, and every time he did it, we had to peel it off of his ass.
Shit.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. Chuck wins the training session, right? 5 weeks later, case in point, 5 weeks later, we go to the meet. Vlad squats the all-time world record of 1250, and Chuck bombs the fuck out. So what did all that do?
Yeah, just Fridays.
Blew him up.
Yeah.
Cooked him. You know, another thing I remember seeing was we had a guy named Nick Winters, which I don't know if you remember. He might have been before you were enamored by Westside Barbell, but I watched Nick Winters bench 625 for a triple in the gym and raw. And I remember he had the biggest pecs I'd ever seen on a fucking human. And you got to remember this too. Like, we had some pro bodybuilders coming in and out of there that would do accessory work with us. Mike Francois was one of them. He won like 3 Arnold Classics and as a pro level bodybuilder. And Nick Winters' pecs were twice his size. I mean, he was just a freak, but he ended up dying of like a massive heart attack at like 29. I think he probably had an underlying health issue that nobody knew about. You know, again, a lot of the guys that are involved in powerlifting don't necessarily come from money or high education families where you would, maybe take him to a doctor and get stuff checked on a regular basis. He probably had maybe a valve issue or a heart defect, and nobody knew about it. He just fucking died one day. And he didn't die training. He died at home. But I'm trying to think of the other ones. Greg Panora was one of those guys. You could put weight on him. I don't know if you guys have heard his name. He was my training partner at Westside Barbell. He broke multiple world records at 242. You couldn't get Greg to fail. You had to stop him from training, meaning like if you did a squat, he would, get under a bar and you would see his back start to round over, like where most of us would be like, take the fucking weight, He would just grind through that motherfucker. It didn't matter how bad his form broke or how poorly something went. He would just figure out a way to grind it out almost to the point of demise, right? Like, and I remember like, dude, you could be 20% stronger if you could just hold your technique, and you just couldn't talk any sense into him. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think of the other things. George Halbert was one of the most explosive bench pressers you could possibly imagine. I remember when we first got measurement tools in the weight room where we can measure the bar speed at meters per second. And at speed work with our percentages, most of us were around 0.7 or 0.8 meters per second, which is pretty fucking fast. George would be consistently over 1.1 or 1.2 at the same weight at underweighing us by 50, 60 pounds.
Jeez.
He had the most explosive bench press I've ever seen. Maximal strength wise, like isometric pure strength, wasn't the strongest guy I've ever seen, but he was the most explosive, which also translated into big weights. If we look at guys like Julius Maddox, for example, Maddox is strong because he's fast. If you watch how fast he blasts shit off the chest, it's like a rocket ship, right? And that's what's allowed him to have the world record in the bench.
Do you
We've been
think
pretty good friends for a long time.
Do you think there's that two different types of like two different muscle types, where some people are more explosive, other people more of a grinder, and the more explosive guys are fast off the chest, but if they don't lock it out, they'll hit that sticking point and get stuck there?
Yeah, I think there's multiple factors. Again, it's not as easy as black and white. If you look at a lot of the foreign studies on muscle fiber makeup, we are made up of about 30 different types of muscle isomers
I didn't
and or
even know
fiber
that.
types.
True.
So you got type 2A, type 2B, and then type 1, right? But there's all these little, what they call hybrid fibers in between. And that means that all of us are slightly different, and we
That makes sense.
react to training differently as well. But yeah, I think if you were to categorize it and you made me force me into two, yeah, you got grinders and you got explosive guys. Now, the guys that are world record holders are usually have a little bit of both. Right? Because you can only grind so much and you can only be just so explosive with no strength before both of them catch up to you.
No, definitely.
You know, so what you see in Olympic lifting is you watch guys, you know, like how many times have we watched Olympic lifting in the super heavyweights, like that new kid from Georgia that's broke Alexiev's record. I can't remember his name. Sasha. He's that big fucking Georgian guy that's like got a 600-pound clean and jerk.
Freak of nature.
I missed that one.
He doesn't even, but my point being is he doesn't even look like he has any muscle. Am I right?
He doesn't.
But he's quick.
So fast.
He's super quick, and he's not even really built to Olympic lift. If I remember correctly, he's like 6'5".
Yeah, he's quite tall. Yeah.
So my point being is, you know, sometimes those different fiber types can be a different advantage or disadvantage depending on what type of lifting you're going to put him in. Because it'd be interesting to see what he could actually deadlift, right? Like at maximal strain, what can he deadlift? Because if he can clean and jerk 600, in our minds as strength athletes or as powerlifters, we'd be like, oh, that dude could deadlift 1,000, but he might not even be able to deadlift 750.
Yeah, look, I don't know. Maybe there's some training stuff out there, but he puts a 220 kilo snatch over his head. So
Nice. Yeah, I think I might have missed this one.
he's an animal.
Yeah, he's a beast. He's been like with the best Olympic lifter super heavyweight for like, I want to say 12 or 13 years.
So,
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're right. Go for it.
I didn't have anything to say. I was just dicking around. Go ahead.
No worries. I thought I would ask. So obviously you train the firemen and you get into that sort of stuff. I thought I'd ask: is there any sort of crossover from that to like training powerlifting or strength sports for martial arts? Like, how would you go about doing strength training for martial artists?
Well, so in my theory, and again, everybody has a theory, you know, it's like assholes and everybody has an opinion. I've never really ran into a fighter that I would consider had raw maximal strength. So I look at everything as a weakness context, right? So if somebody is low in maximal strength, I'm not saying that they need to be powerlifting strong, but if you weigh 260 pounds and you're a grappler or an MMA guy, I mean, you should be able to bench 405, right? I don't give a shit what sport you're trying to do. 405 bench at 265 is totally doable. And everything that you want to do on rate of force development, meaning you want to be more explosive, you want to be quicker, it all comes back down in some cases to maximal strength. So if maximal strength is your weakest link, it's also reducing the amount of power output or rate of force that you can have on other lifts, right? So think about it in this perspective, and it's very archaic, but it should make sense. If I want to use 225 for speed and I bench 250, how fast does 225 move? But if I can bench 500, how fast does 225 move?
Yeah, definitely.
So I've changed the scope in which the resistances I can use for speed work. That's why you raise maximal strength in fighters, is so it allows them to train the dynamic effort method with a heavier load, therefore having more power output. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So if somebody's real quick but they're weak, we got to get them stronger.
Yeah.
But if somebody's a wrestler and they can bench, let's say now we got a 600-pound bencher that's an MMA guy, but his speed work looks like shit, we don't need to work on maximal strength. But I've never seen that equation. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
It's all about your weakness, right?
How would you...
If you walk out and you go get in your car, you guys all have cars, right? You go out to your garage and you get in your car and the engine runs really good, but you got a flat tire, do you fix the fucking engine?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you fix the fucking tire. Well, if you got some kid coming in that can only bench press 135, but he's a great wrestler, do you just keep wrestling him, or do you
Yeah.
fucking get him stronger?
Yeah, definitely. So it's more like you would take
But
a block out of their training and then maybe focus a little bit on the strength training, because if you're training we'll just use MMA for example. You
yeah,
know, you're grappling, you're doing your striking, you're doing your jiu-jitsu, you know, everything takes a toll that you need to recover from. How would you cycle in your your strength training within that sort of system?
you use that cycle to utilize the specificity of where their weakest links are.
Yeah, so like a block
So
of
if I know a
training.
guy's got really good grappling skills and he's practiced it over and over and over again, do you think he's going to lose it in a 15-week block of getting stronger? Fuck no. He's probably going to get better at it because you gave him a goddamn break and let that CNS actually recuperate instead of drilling the same shit in over and over and over again. Right?
That makes sense. Yeah, so you just break it down into sections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You put other things in maintenance phases and then you put other things in priority, and you just keep switching it around until you find the perfect mixture. The problem is the perfect mixture changes as the weaknesses change.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you got to have access to that person's training system and modalities for anywhere from 6 to 10 years in order to get everything about as tweaked as you can, because you'll never get somebody the fastest they can be or the strongest they can be. You're just going to get a mixture of whatever they can tolerate in training and stress management, nutrition, and all that other shit. But what I find with MMA guys is that they're so specific in their training that as soon as they get a hold of somebody else that has equal skill, but another raw talent like maximal strength, they're fucked.
Yeah, all things being equal, the stronger athlete's going to win, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And probably in some cases be less injured. Their bone density is going to be better. Their joints, their ligaments and tendons are going to be used to more tension.
Yeah.
So when they get put in a bad position, they got a chance to get out or not get injured. I mean, those are the things, in my opinion, that matter the most, right? I mean, you guys remember that MMA guy, Mark Kerr, that The Rock just did a movie on?
Machine, yeah.
Why was Mark Kerr so badass in his era? Because he was so much fucking stronger than everybody else.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what kind of moves they had, because he was equal in moves and he was super strong.
Yeah. Yeah. He was yoked. I remember watching him back in the day, and like he was.
Yeah, same thing with Kevin Randleman.
Yeah, rest in peace. Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
And bloody Coleman. You know, they're all massive wrestlers.
Coleman used to actually come in and train with us at Westside.
Oh wow, really?
That's another story. I'm glad you brought Coleman up. So Coleman comes in, and this is in his prime. So I'm like 21. This is 2001, right? This is right when Coleman's like winning prides.
Yeah.
And he walks in, and he's sitting in the chair, and he's just doing this. He's just like, he's almost like he's got like a weird tick to him.
Yeah.
Like he's just ready to jump up and beat your fucking ass in like 1 second. You know, and I was almost like too intimidated to even talk to him, even though I was stronger than him. I'm like, this guy is a fucking psycho. You know, I mean, you could just see it in his eyes. Like his eyes were wide open and he was just rocking back and forth. Like he was just ready to get up and bust your fucking teeth out.
Yeah.
It was wild to have him around. And Louie loved it because he's like, this
would've.
guy's fucking off the chain. You know what I mean?
It would have been perfect
So,
cover guy for
yeah.
Louie. He would have gotten on well.
Yeah,
with him.
Coleman walked in and he looked like he lifted like one of us, but he was just a fucking animal, you know?
Yeah. Nah, definitely. Yeah, he was definitely. Yeah, especially when he won that. Did you watch much of his career? Because he had a bit of a.
Yeah, that's when I thought MMA was the coolest, when it was more underground.
Yeah, me too. You used
The
to be able to wear
unfortunate
the
thing is
stuff
those
in
guys.
Sorry,
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is those guys didn't make any money. They're all broke as fuck.
Mm.
Or they spend it on liquor and bitches. You know,
Yeah.
that's another reason. But
Yeah.
I mean, those guys never got paid big money. I don't think any of them made millions.
No. I mean, they did all right in Pride, some of them. And that's what I was going to say, the Grand Prix, was it 2000 or 2001 Grand Prix when Coleman won, and he had a bit of a bad run where he lost in the UFC and he had a few losses in Pride. Then he won that big Grand Prix, and he's like, he doesn't know what to do with himself, and he jumps on the ropes and that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah,
he
was fucking psycho, man. He was crazy. Yeah, but I remember meeting him in person a handful of times. He still lives real close to where my gym's at, and I keep trying to get him to come in, but he dealt with a lot of alcoholism, and he doesn't look too hot anymore. But I
Yeah.
said, man, just come in and hang out, dude. Like,
I
it'd
think
be fun to just have that kind of.
I think he was, because 100% he was looking real bad. But then last I saw of him, he was getting back into training and
Yeah,
cutting
he went
down
to
on the drink.
rehab and he
Yeah,
got better because one of my other friends' brothers was actually in alcohol rehab with him.
yeah. Oh, nice. And he had that.
Yeah, so I know he's better, but like I said, he's pretty financially screwed right now, and I don't know all the ins and outs, but he's yeah, it's kind of sad when
No,
people say
it
they see
is.
him out in public.
Yeah, he saved his parents not too long ago. Did you see
Yeah,
that? Yeah,
yeah,
with the house
yeah. I
fire
was
and all
saving
that.
from a fire. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
yeah, definitely. It was definitely he's one of the all timers for sure.
Yeah,
So so your max raw bench, that was what, 611 or 620? 611.
6'11". I think
Six.
I think if I would have only done a bench only meet, I probably could have been around 630s. It'd be
Wow.
my guesstimate. But the problem was is I always had to do a world record squat before I benched. You
Yeah,
know,
that
that
might
was the problem.
slightly make it a bit harder, you know?
Well, I remember like I would get done with those world record squats, the two big ones I did raw, and I would look at my training partner, Big Rob, and I was like, I don't know if I can finish this fucking meet, dude. I am cooked. I remember just being fucking absolutely baked.
Yeah.
That was the nice thing about the gear, though. You know, you lifted more weight, but it didn't have as much muscle damage. And I felt like my central nervous system recovered better, but I was also younger,
Yes, yeah. So you're not
you
sure how
know?
much it was it the gear, or
Yeah.
was it just the fact that I
Because,
was
but yeah, by
younger?
the time I was hitting my big raw numbers, I was already in my mid 30s.
Yeah. Do you have,
So,
because when was that again? That was 2014.
so my raw career was third. Well, if you count the first raw 600 bench, 2012 to 2018.
Okay. Do you
Then
find
my quip career was 2004 to 2011,
yeah,
and then my drug-free single-ply USAPL or IPF career was 1993 to 2003.
nice. Do you find that
Yeah.
you've had any of your raw methodologies change over the years from when you hit your world records in the bench and that to now?
Not much,
Not much.
honestly. You know what's funny is I just find more and more research as I dig through stuff, especially overseas stuff like the translated Soviet texts. I find more and more stuff that backing what I was doing.
Yeah.
The Wenning Warmups were initially for fitness
Mm.
level, and they, as I started reading into Mevdiev's book and Verkhoshansky's book, they started talking about moderate to light loading and ultra high volume being good for ligament and tendon density, which I think caught me just at the right time to reduce my injuries
Mm.
because I was already older. So there was a multiple birds hit with one stone on that.
Mm.
Then you start reading post-activation potentiation studies on, say, tricep pushdowns before a bench press to activate higher bench press activity.
Mm.
You know, stuff like that, where I'm like, yeah, I was dead nuts on that shit, even though I never saw the studies first.
Mm.
And then rotating the exercises were crucial. That came a lot from Medvedev. There were kind of two different schools that people don't realize in the Soviet system. You had the Verkhoshansky side of the schooling, which is more like Chico. They would do very specific type shit.
Mm.
Block style periodization, where you use the same methodology or exercises for a period of time. And then you would have the Medvedev system, which was what we call concurrent, which is kind of what Louie calls the conjugate system, which is where they would rotate exercises nearly weekly.
Mm.
But what you see, and it's interesting if you really do the studying, is that Medvedev tended to have a little bit more grasp on the lifting side, where Verkhoshansky was a little bit more track side. So I don't know how many more different fucking ways you can run, but there's a lot of different ways you can lift, right?
Yeah.
And so what I found was is that Medvedev tended to have a little bit more world-class lifters
Yeah.
and a little bit more of a world-class mindset in lifting, whereas Verkhoshansky was more sport-oriented. But if you see, I think a blend of both that makes very perfect sense is Bondarchuk. And Bondarchuk was the Soviet throwers coach for shot put, discus, etc. And he blended the two methods together in some ways, shapes, and forms, but followed a little bit more of Medvedev's principles of constant rotation.
Mm.
And he's considered by far and away the best throwing coach to ever exist. I think somewhere in his tutelage is over 100 gold medals or something.
Mm.
And here's what's interesting about the Soviet system and why I hold it in high regard is these guys that I'm talking of, Bondarchuk, Verkhoshansky, Medvedev, were all Olympic medalists in of themselves. So not only did they go back to school and get a PhD, they were also physically badasses, meaning that they knew how to sift through bullshit. You notice that we're very separate in the West now. We have guys that are either high professor, low actual performance, or we have high performance, low education. Over there, they mixed both. Yeah. Which I think gave them a better insight, more like kind of what I want it to aspire to be, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it seems like that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to check this book out when it comes out. I'll definitely be getting
Man, I'm excited to check it out too. Hell,
Yeah.
I've wrote it 3 years ago to the point that, hell, I get into the files just to read it again. And I'm like, oh shit, I forgot I wrote that. I mean, it's fucking wild. Yeah. Somebody was asking me a question about something. I'd have to pull up the file and look to remember, but I'm like, well, I've already answered that question. And then like maybe 6 months ago, I pulled it up again for something else. I'm like, well, already answered that question. And I'm like, this book, if it takes off, which, you know, our field as far as strength conditioning and powerlifting and all that is small.
Yeah.
But I think that everybody in this particular realm, regardless if they're strongman, powerlifting, Olympic lifting, they need this book because it just opens up your mindset on how to train smarter. And what I like about the book is it's not just like talking about, from what I can remember how I wrote it, it's got like excerpts of like my tips on how to use this information on like every other page. So it's not like you just throw out the information. Like, you know, if you read Vladimir Zatsiorsky's Science of Practice of Strength Training, the original one, the greenback one, that's really good. He gives you like how to train, but he doesn't show you how to use it.
Yes.
And so at the end of the book, I have chapters that actually show you how to use it for tactical, how to use it for MMA, how to use it for powerlifting, how to use it for equipped, how to use it for raw, and all the different systems and how I've manipulated them over time, right?
Yeah. I definitely want to buy a signed copy when you get that going, but 100%. That'd be awesome.
I need to just go over to Human Kinetics. It's like 2 states away, which is about a 5-hour drive. And then when they print them, I need to have a stack of like 1,000 of them that I've signed and 1,000 of them that are not signed. And then not that they get charged anymore, but that way when they can ask if you want a signed or an unsigned copy, right? But I think I'm going to get maybe a handful of them at the house when they get done, and then I'll personally ship them out so they can buy them through me or the website, you know. But yeah, I'm excited for that book to come out too. It's kind of one of those things where I just get so agitated that it's taken 3 years for them to do any editing on it. And I'm just like, come on, guys, this is getting fucking crazy. Because I have an actual conjugate test built from the book. Wow. That is that people can take and be certified in this training methodology. And I can't give the test until you have the book. Right? Because you're not going to pass. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I first designed it, started the elementary set of the design, I had myself, Louie Simmons, Chuck, and Greg take it. And the only people that passed it were me and Louie.
Yeah, nice.
That was 2 other guys that actually lived the system, and they couldn't pass the test.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it must be obviously if it's got a lot of information in there. Like, yeah, I'm definitely keen to check it out.
It breaks down basically East German thought process, Bulgarian thought process, Soviet process, biology, biomechanics, rate of force development, and how you select loading parameters. I mean, it took a chunk of my life away to write that, to be honest with you. The only thing it was is I already had notes on everything. So it was more making it into a book instead of just something I could quick reference. Like you had a question on maximal effort training. I could pull up 4 texts and go to the sticky note and be like, this is what this author says, and this author says. And how do you blend all that together and make it a product?
Yeah.
Make it to where you have it in a book format, right?
Yeah. Well, this is your life's work and all these decades of knowledge, you know, like all in one book. So, I mean, just out of a few of your videos, I learned so much. So, you know, this book, it sounds like a must for any real strength athlete for sure to peruse through for sure.
I think any coach for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
including
Yeah,
myself.
the application of it's really limitless. I mean, if you look at it from a scope of generality, you could utilize that thought process for about any way to train.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at Charlie Francis, for example, that trained Ben Johnson,
Mm.
he had a conjugate thought process with lifting weights.
Mm.
If you look at, or I'm sorry, for running and sprinting, he would do like only block starts, and then he would do build up runs, and he would never run like a mile to get better at 100, right? Which is what we try to tell people all the time. You know, just because you can bench press 315 for 10 doesn't mean you can bench press 405 for one,
Mm.
which makes the old scales bad. How many times have you guys seen guys that are good at reps, but as soon as it gets heavy, they just shut down? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look, it depends on the lift, but I've run into that, especially with the bench because I had problems with my shoulder.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, for sure. I found I was better at reps. I think as well because reps, like a part of it is, I don't know, it could just be my opinion, but you can tap into that psycho, like, you know, you can work yourself
Yeah.
up more to hit more reps where like your maximal strength. I mean, with deadlift, yeah, but generally speaking, it's either there or it's not. But with reps, you can maybe push a bit more out by just fucking pushing a bit.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it's just neurological innervation. Some people can't get to deep motor units without fatigue, and some people can.
Yeah.
Right? Like some people can turn on all their muscle at once, and it's like a top fuel dragster. It's like boom,
Mm.
and other people have to ramp up to that amount of pressure.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I'm probably in the second then. You got some questions there?
Yeah,
Alex?
I just think you've touched a couple of times on the Wenning Warmups, just for a few people out there who have no idea what that is. Can you give us a bit of a brief rundown on what the Wenning Warmup is?
Yeah. For a deep dive into it, if you go to the Winning Strength website, there's a couple of download videos that you can get that'll explain the uppers and lower processes of how to do it. But an overall view is you're only as strong as fit you can recover from, meaning like you have to increase your general physical fitness in order for your strength to rise, or you won't be able to recover. I didn't learn that until I was in my early 30s, but how to apply it was difficult. So I started talking to a handful of people, Flex Wheeler, pro bodybuilder. I started talking to guys like Michael Hearn and things like that. And one of the things that I saw that was kind of common with all of them was if they were trying to put on the most muscle mass, they said sets of 20 were king shit. And I thought that was interesting, right? And I even talked to Arnold about this in 2016, just to kind of remaster my thought process on the situation. Well, then I started digging through, again, some of the Soviet texts, and they started talking about lower intensity, higher volume being better for ligament tendon density and neurological adaptations. And I'm thinking, well, fuck, I don't do anything over sets of 15 because I'm a fucking power lifter, right?
Mm.
And I'm thinking, well, maybe there's this branch of repetition ranges that I'm not utilizing that could add benefit. And so as I started digging through some of the books on general physical preparedness and transferring to specialized physical preparedness, so you want to be a good power lifter, you got to be a good athlete, right? That's the thought process.
Mm.
And what I started to realize is as I got stronger, I was slowly losing my athleticism and getting too specific into the training. So as I started digging into this, I was actually in Australia in 2012, and I was at a conference, the ASCA, which is your guys' NSCA. Dan Baker was running it. All those guys are big time rugby dudes.
Yeah.
And there was a lady there that was getting a PhD, and she was talking about post-activation potentiation with rugby players. And she was saying that doing high volume, low intensity work right before the main lift increased their ability to put power into the bar. So they were doing like goblet squats for sets of 25 before they would do the competition straight bar squats, and everybody's strength would go up anywhere from 8 to 12%. I'm like, well, fuck. If my squat goes up 8 to 12%, that's going to be fucking like 100 pounds. So, but it doesn't cling with me right away. I just go home and I marinate on it. Well, I do that first full powerlifting meet in 2013. So 12 years ago, I do that first full powerlifting meet and I squat that little under 800, which was the second highest squat of all time, in my body weight. and I was fucking gassed. I remember after the squat, I was gassed. Because remember, I told you in 2012, I hit my first 600 bench, right? Raw. Well, then I go in 2013 and I squat close to 800. Now my bench is only 584. I tried 610 at the meet and I got fucking hammered. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Because like I know I can do that.
Yeah.
But why can't I do it? And so as I sit down to design the training process that got me that world record squat and subtotal, the highest I'd ever seen at the time, I'm sitting back home as I'm driving home from that full meet, and I'm like, maybe it's not that I'm not strong enough. Maybe it's I'm not conditioned enough after squats that when the bench is there, I'm already 10% weaker because I'm fucking tired. So I initially started the Wenning warm-up process with the bench press. So what I said was, okay, I'll do 4 sets of 25 bench press with dumbbells. Then I'll do a lat pull down, and then I'll do a tricep extension because I felt like my lats weren't staying tight enough and my triceps were the weakest link, because where I missed that 610 was about halfway up. So now I'm breaking out the segments of where my weaknesses are. So I have a primer and I have 2 other exercises that are weakness points. I do it in a very quick fashion. So I'll do 4 rounds and I try to get it done between 12 and 14 minutes. So we're talking 300 fucking reps in 14 minutes. Right? But I'm not using heavy weights. I'm using real light weights. I'm using like 30-pound dumbbells and I bench 600 pounds. So I try to tell people all the time, they fuck it all up. And so I start off real light and I build into it. Well, then I go to that meet 8 months later and I'm only messing with the bench press at the time with this warm up. I go to the meet later and then I squat the world record and then I bench 606 and I probably could have took 622 at that meet. It was just like fucking boom. I nailed it. Nice. And I figured it out. I wasn't fit enough to bench 600 after squatting the world record. So then the next meet I applied the technique with the squat and the deadlift on the warm-ups, and the rest was history.
So you're talking you were doing those kind of warm-ups at your meet as well?
No.
Just for training?
No. There's a whole nother debacle to that. It's the training. Right? You build the fitness up, and then right when you're ready to peak, you back it all off, so you super compensate and you actually get better. It's not about doing shit at the meet. It's over by that point. It's about what you're doing 15 weeks before the meet.
Yeah, I always use your Wenning warm-ups. For all my logs, there's like the Wenning warm-ups written all through. But I think I might have, I didn't go heavy, but I think I should have, in hindsight, maybe backed it off a little bit. I think maybe I went a little bit too heavy.
You got to remember, you're just trying to prime it. You're not trying to destroy it. You're trying to prime it, and you're building conditioning.
Yeah.
Once you do that, then it's slow and steady and methodical. You do that for 12, 15, 20 weeks, and you start noticing that your power improves on your compound movements.
Yeah. Because, like in hindsight and having things sitting in the back of your head, I think I went too heavy with that. Even my speed work, I'll do 100 for sets of 8, so that's 220, and it would try to make sure they're all around in that bloody 8-second range, so it's like 1 rep a second. But even there, I probably could have gone a bit lighter. I could have maybe not pushed as hard. But when you're training on your own as well, it can make it kind of hard.
You learn, and I tell you what, it was weird because the last 10 years or so of my competitive career, I didn't have Louie to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah,
I had to be a self-master. I had to understand what I was feeling, what I was going through. And it was interesting because a lot of the training partners I had at the time, and Big Rob was one of them, they were willing to do whatever it took to get me the best I could be. It wasn't a selfish endeavor. They knew they were there to have me break world records. Now, they got better as well, but they always knew. And I set them down and told them, like, the focus on this training cycle has nothing to do with you getting better. It's everything that has to do with me breaking world records. So you're either going to help me with that or you're going to get the fuck out of my gym.
Yeah. That would have been really satisfying as well when you left. And then, without being disrespectful to Westside, basically you smoked them. You know what I mean? You left and then you jumped up another level because it would have validated everything that you were saying.
I look back at it now and it's I'm glad that I did that, but I'm not proud of the way that I did it. I did it like putting 2 middle fingers in front of Louie's face almost. I kept that pretty cordial in the public, but when we would run into each other occasionally in around town, it was an awkward, frictionless situation. And I remember 2022, I get this package in the mail, and so what, 4 years ago roughly, and I open it, and it says it's from Westside Barbell. So I'm wondering if it's a fucking bomb or some C4, right? They're gonna do a Muslim attack on me. And so I opened it up, and it's a book. It's the book that Louie had just finished recently, and he wrote in it. And I got pictures I could send you if you ever want to post it. And it's
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
dear Matt, proud of all your accomplishments and your lifting records. Glad to call you my friend. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
So you're
Because I
still,
mean, we were almost like at like throwing blows. If you, and I got pictures of the magazine, the Powerlifting USA at the time, where Louie's having to hand me like $20,000 because I was best heavyweight, best squat, and world record total
yeah,
at his meet.
yeah,
And I remember taking the money from him while they're taking the picture. And I'm like, I told you I was going to come back and take all your fucking money and make you look like shit, you motherfucker, is what I said to him when I took the money. And then I did it again the next year.
yeah,
And that was when I had really drew the nail in the coffin of us not really having a relationship anymore. Because, I mean, I moved over to Columbus with nothing.
yeah,
And it's like your dad throwing you out of the house for an argument about how to train smart when you're doing it the right way and people are all getting better and they don't want to listen because it's not his idea. It's like you never let the student outshine the master is what happened. And
isn't that a
that
sign of,
sucks. So I get the book and I call him.
yeah,
I'm like, okay, fuck it. Maybe he wants to reach out. Maybe he wants to talk. I call him. I leave a message. And within a week, the fire departments that I train, they work his area, and they went and picked him up. He was dead in his house.
oh shit,
So I think he knew he was dying, and he kind of tried to make amends before that happened.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's like as hard as it is, at least you got that, you know, like he obviously still thought highly of you. He still cared about you to do that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Louie was a very complex person.
yeah. Yeah, he definitely sounded like a legend. I would have loved to have met him. I love going off what I hear. I love the environment of that gym. You know, I like the sound of it.
Yeah.
I think you
It's
would have
one
fit
thing
right
to
in.
see it. Yeah. It's one thing to see it from a distance. It's another thing to visit and see it in person for a short time.
Yeah.
But it's a whole nother environment to live
live.
it. And then you
Yeah.
start seeing the cracks in the fucking Swiss cheese. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. So you sort of come in at the prime of it, and then you seen the cracks at the end, just pushing too
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the big thing that Louie and I really disagreed with is me having talks with Verkhoshansky. And there were a couple other factors that went down, which I could cliff notes. One, I was hired by the Cleveland Browns, our professional football team, and I never ended up working a day, but I was hired, and Louis saw that as, well, as soon as Matt gets a good high paying job, he's out of here. So then he sees I'm not like fully vested in Westside Barbell, which I was, but like I just got out of school as a master's student, and somebody's offering you 150,000 US a year to train a pro football team. What the fuck are you going to do?
Yeah, definitely.
Right. I mean, I had to like take that as a professional leap in my career, but I never ended up working a day because the entire coaching staff got fired before I even started the job. But that started the process. The next thing that started the process is that I was reaching out to Verkhoshansky in Italy, and I was having him help me break down what we were doing and how to improve it, which I thought Louis would take as awesome, that I was reaching out to someone and actually getting feedback on our system and what we had translated correctly and what we had not translated correctly. And Verkhoshansky was like, I would do it this way. You guys are equipped lifters. I don't know anything about that. But what I can tell you is that also opens up the door for multiple environments. And I'm like, how so? And he goes, you could 1 week train completely raw, the next week train with a little bit of gear, and the next week train all the gear. And then you could go heavy week in and week out because there's 3 different environments. And I'm like, holy shit, that's a really good idea, because what people don't realize is we were starting to lose muscle mass because Louis wanted us to train in gear all the time. Suits, shirts, raw work was kind of thrown out the window other than speed day. And so I bring that back to Louis, and Louis is like, that's not going to fucking work. That's fucking stupid, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I'm going to fucking try it. So 2006, maybe early 7, I have Greg do it with me, and both Greg and I hit the second or the third highest total of all time, took somebody's name off the record board at Westside Barbell, and Greg broke the world record following what we were doing. So then the next cycle, the whole everybody.
There you.
And Louis, it's one of those days that we're just training in a belt, right? And working on muscle mass. And we're doing heavy triples instead of doubles or singles. So the volume's a little higher. And Greg and I are working up to like 765 or like 320 kg for a fucking triple in a belt. Louis is in his late 50s at the time, and he has to put on a bunch of gear just to hang with us raw, which pissed him off. And he's like, I don't know why you're fucking doing that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm all fucking hyped up because the workouts are grueling. And I'm like, dude, listen, if you want to have an argument about this situation, I'm all for it. But let's do it after we fucking train. I don't want to talk about how my squat, when I'm the one that just squatted 1,085 and you haven't squatted, you've never even squatted 1,000, you know? So I'm being an asshole. But like, he'd do that to us all the time. So I'm like, all right, motherfucker, you're getting it back. Well, that really pissed him off. And then within the next week or so, he comes into my office because I had an office at Westside Barbell because I train people. And he's like, I don't think it's working out between you and I, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, so you're fucking kicking me out of the gym, even though I'm making performance and Greg's getting better and the entire crew's getting better. You're fucking mad because it's not your idea. And that's when I realized, like, I wasn't in the right spot. Well, you know, I had contemplated quitting powerlifting completely. This is early 2007 or late 2007, early 2008. And that's when Chuck calls me because Chuck had already left. He'd already got pissed off at Louie, and he took off and went to a little gym called Lexington. And Chuck hears that Louie had kicked me out, and he ends up calling me. And he's like, hey, I heard Louie fucking went off on you for actually doing your job and being better. And I'm like, yeah, dude, it's fucked up. He's like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know, man. I might move back home to Indiana, you know, because I didn't have anything really situated here. I was making okay money, but enough to pay my bills, have enough to eat and train. But I didn't have anything extra. And he's like, fuck all that shit. He's like, come down here and train with us. We'll keep it all low key. We won't tell anybody what we're doing. And we'll show up at their meet in 9 months and beat the fuck out of them. Yeah. And I'm like, game fucking on. So that's when that whole Westside versus the World thing started, that documentary. And you can see it all play out. And it's actually 100% truthful. Yeah. You know?
That, my favorite part of that documentary is, what was it? Like Louis had a heart attack or something, right? And he was in the hospital. And was it Chuck picked him up, and as they're leaving, they're like, "We're going to the gym, and you're fucking maxing out." So he nearly just died.
Louis, it wasn't as massive as a heart attack. Louis had a knee scope.
Oh, okay. I remember something happening.
Louis had his knee scoped, and they had like, I want to say 8 or 10 stitches in his knee, where they just went in with those little things, and it was still fucking bleeding. Yeah. That was another crazy story. Louis gets the other knee. This is probably 10 years later. Louis gets the other knee scoped at the left one, I believe. And we're in the old Demarest location, which was what made Westside Barbell famous, where all the videos were shot. And I walk in to squat with the crew, and Chuck and Louis, and I want to say Dave Tate, and maybe Kenny Patterson and a couple other guys, all world record holders and all badasses were on there. And I'm coming in to squat with them, and I'm squatting close to 900 at the time, so I can squat with the big boys. And Louie's in a fucking ace bandage and this other thing, and Chuck is berating him the entire time. You're fucking lazy. You know, he knew what to say to Louie to make him mad. Louie fucking bandages up his knee more and gets under the fucking squat rack and starts squatting with us. All the while, he's busting the stitches loose, and his leg is covered in blood. His entire shin, his calf, is just bleeding down into his sock. All because Chuck called him a fucking pussy and told him he wasn't going to lift that day because he's weak. And that was when I knew I was in a position of like, where the fuck am I right now? This is insane. And then Louis takes the bandage off, and you can see the sutures are just almost busted open. And he literally just had a surgery like within 1 or 2 days.
I love it.
Yeah, and
That's
not the
fucking
smartest fucking thing in the world.
No, but that's
right?
fucking gangster.
But
I'm glad you brought that up because I remember that story now.
I don't think there's anybody out there that could even imagine that kind of stuff these days. I mean,
Yeah.
over here anyway.
Yeah.
Dude, he had to blast so much fucking Advil and pain meds for the next month just because he wanted to do that squat.
Yeah.
And the doctor, I remember him coming into breakfast the next week, and the doctor going, "What in the living fuck? Did you fall? Like, how did you bust your knee up this bad?" Nah, I'm fucking lifting weights, you know? And the doctor's like, "You have lost your goddamn mind." So a lot of people don't know this, but Louie had a sleeping issue where because he got trached, he had another knee surgery, and they put the wrong anesthesia in him. It killed him on the table, and they had to go through his throat to trach him in, and that's how he had all the sleep problems.
Yeah.
But I watched him. He would take an entire box of Tylenol PMs just to be able to sleep a half an hour.
Yeah.
You know, it was difficult
It
having
makes me
like
feel a lot better about my sleep.
yeah, it was difficult having hotel rooms with him. I remember when we went to York, PA for one meet at the York Barbell Hall of Fame, and I had a lifting room with him, and I didn't bring earplugs, and everybody else thought it was fucking hilarious. "Oh, you're staying with Louie tonight, huh?" And they're chuckling under their skin. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm staying with Louie. I'm fucking cool, right? Like, you guys are a bunch of fags. Well, what the joke was on me because Louie can't sleep, and so Louie would snore to the point like of sound like a Harley trying to start in the bathroom. You know, like ruh, 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 ruh. I mean, I can't even make the noise. It
No, I
sounded
know what you
fucking
mean,
like
though.
somebody.
My dad had
And
that.
then I'd wake up, and then Louie would be like, "God damn it!" And then he'd fucking sit up for a second, then he'd lay back down. 30 minutes later, same thing. 30 minutes later, same thing. Keeping in mind, the next day I had to squat 1,055, and I can't sleep a lick because I don't have any fucking earplugs. And I was like, dude, I didn't realize how bad it was. But he had to sleep upright in a chair because his throat was so bad.
A
But
sleep
he
app
took
wouldn't help or anything?
no, he would take a box of Tylenol PMs every fucking night to just get that kind of sleep.
Yeah.
Which I think was probably why it cooked his kidneys so bad. That's what he ended up dying from.
Yeah.
His kidneys just basically went to zero, and they told him, "Hey, you need to be on dialysis." And he's like, "No, just take me home." And he fucking died within like a day or two. Is what the EMS guys told me.
Yeah. We'll bang out the last few questions because we've
Yeah.
held you up for a little while. Do you have a few
Yeah, no
questions
problem.
there that you
Yeah, I
want to hit on?
just like some advice for some of the young guys out there. Starting
Yeah.
out.
Give me some context. Like, what do you want me to talk about? Because there's a lot of shit that I could go into on that.
Like you're 17 and you're thinking about getting into some lifting. What do you do?
The first thing is you want to outsource to people around you that are at least as technically savvy as you can find. You know, the one big thing that you can do as a young person is be around other people that are like-minded, but they're like-minded with the right technique. Because how you reinforce your technique when you first start is going to be your technique for the rest of your career for most people. Changing technique when you're already strong is like pulling fucking teeth, and most people won't do it because they're not patient enough. So if you're not a very patient person, which is a 17-year-old, then you need to be around people that make you do it perfect right off the get-go. The next thing is your biggest advantage is going to be out sleeping people, not out training them. If you can recover better and you can get more recovery in, you can train harder without your body getting beat down so fast, allowing you to hit bigger numbers faster. The next big thing is your first 10 powerlifting meets should be based on you having fun, and you should never miss an attempt. The first 10 powerlifting competitions, everything should feel light. Everything should be a PR. And remember that gym PRs are not meet PRs. You can't always compete and taper at the exact same rate that you just have a good day at the gym. Meaning, like, somebody might be able to bench press 200 kilos in the gym, but they get under the lights and under judging, and now they have to do a strict pause. They might be only 170 kilo bencher, right? So you have to have competition maxes and you have to have training maxes, and you have to know the difference, because a lot of people, when they go into meets, they see the anxiety, they feel the pressure, and they feel that they have to be stronger. It's not how much you can lift, it's what you can do at a contest. And those are very different things. And so I think if those three things were people that were first starting out could adhere to, they would not only have more fun, they would actually ultimately be stronger.
Mm.
I remember the first 6 or 8 meets that I did, I never failed. My coaches would pick weights that they knew I could do easily, even if I was slightly sick or maybe had a flu bug or whatever.
Mm.
So then over the course of a decade, I was able to, when I crawled under a bar, obviously there's anxiety, right? But I never felt like I could fail. I always felt like I could always do it because I always did it.
Mm.
But if you go in and you're constantly getting crushed to the point that you're hitting shit that's beating you into pieces, you start creating a negative atmosphere in your training and in your mind. You create these plateaus instead of developing through them. So I remember the first meet, remember I told you guys I benched 250. I benched 250 and it looked easy, but it was technically perfect.
Mm.
And I was like, man, I'm so close to 300. I should have took 300. You know, I'm a fucking kid. And they go, yeah, you'll hit 300 when it's fucking time. Shut your fucking mouth.
Mm.
And so a year later, I go to a meet and I bench 315. And it says easier than 250. 6 months later, I hit 350. 6 months later, I hit 405. 6 months later, I hit 455. 6 months later, I hit my first 500, and the 500 wasn't hard.
Mm.
But what if I'd have went back and I would have got crushed with that 315, and then it would have created a roadblock for me mentally,
negatively,
and then I may have never made it to the 500-pound bench as fast as I did, but I never failed.
Mm.
So I never knew how to fail. I never knew what failing felt like. All I knew was like I could just keep puffing up my confidence on every lift I did because I never hit lifts that I missed.
Mm.
That's awesome advice and stuff that I try my very best to get across to a lot of people.
Good luck.
Especially those young guys, man. You know, the egos.
Good
and
luck,
the
motherfucker.
testosterone's pumping.
You might have more luck being blonde than dark haired, but whatever.
Yeah. But look, I think that's awesome, and hopefully I can show that to a few people, and maybe
that
they'll think
reminds
twice
me
about
of someone we know with his lads that did the exact opposite. Remember, you know, I don't want to, but
we don't need to mention.
yeah, but and the guy that I started training with initially, he always said that as well. He's like, leave it in the bag. You know, you don't need to hit it. If you leave a little bit in the bag, you can constantly progress. Yep. And I actually shout out to Shane Van Erp. When I mentioned I was going to have you on the podcast, he was blown away. And he wanted to say as well that he really appreciates everything that you put out there, and
Oh, thank you.
And that you meant a lot to him and that as well. So to Shane,
Yeah, not a problem, man. I appreciate trying to help you guys out as much as I can, even though we're so far away.
Yeah,
I've been trying to get back over to Australia and do a couple clinics or something, but man, it's the flight is so fucking far and it's just so expensive to the point you almost have to have 30 or 40 people signed up to be able to even make it physically worth coming over because of the distance and the expense,
Yeah.
I mean, that plane ticket that I got in 2012, I remember the ASCA bought it and it was still like almost $3,000. That was in 2012. So I don't even know what the fuck it'd be now.
I mean, the only advantage you guys have got is your dollars go a bit further over here than...
Yeah.
If you're ever down this way and you need somewhere to stay, brother, you can stay here as well. That free you up a little bit.
Yeah. Where are you guys at in Australia? You guys in Melbourne?
No, we're in Cairns.
Way up north, man.
Yeah, we're up
right
the top, near the
top
Great Barrier Reef. Yeah, right up the top.
So like
of
an hour or so north of Sydney?
No, like 10, 12, 15 hours north
other
of
side
Sydney.
of the country.
Holy shit.
Yeah, we're way up the top.
Yeah,
man.
so you know how
I
you
keep
got
forgetting
Australia,
right at that
right?
pointy
I
bit,
try to
right,
tell
yeah.
people, like, dude, Australia is probably bigger than the United States.
It's about the same land mass.
I'll tell you what I'd like to do. This is an all-time goal of mine, and I know you guys are going to think I'm fucking nuts, but I want to ride a Harley Davidson from Sydney to fucking Perth.
Yeah,
nice. That's a big drive.
I've rode from where I'm at to Alaska and back, which was about 12,000 miles. So what 25,000 kilometers?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty big on doing that, but I think that'd be fucking sweet. But I think you guys drive on the other side of the road because
it's all opposite.
We do opposite side of the road, yeah. But that stretch you would have
question
to go
for you
across
guys:
the Nullarbor, which is
why in the hell did the Americans invent cars
I
and
don't
then
know.
everybody else decide they were going to do it the opposite way? Why can't we just all make it the same?
That was some genius before our time, mate. Someone was like, "Oh, you know, we'll just be difficult for difficult sake."
Yeah, that would screw me up going over there and riding is on the opposite side of the road. I'd always feel panicked like I was,
When I
just like
was,
you guys coming over and driving here.
yeah. Well, when I was in the Philippines, the first time I drove there, because even though you know it's different, right? Your habits are ingrained. So I look the wrong
wired, yeah.
way, right? And I pull out and nearly have an accident. I've only just started fucking driving because it's just like, yeah.
Well, at least you could get out. If you're in the Philippines, at least you could get out and beat everybody's ass if that came down
Yeah,
to
well,
it,
Mate, I was so much bigger than everyone else.
Right. Oh, I know. I remember walking around Amsterdam, and it was like people were just like, "Stop." That was the one thing I knew that I was starting to get a little bit worldwide with shit. Is I was doing a seminar in Amsterdam, and some random person off the street from there recognized who I was and came up and talked to me. This was like
That's awesome.
2014.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was kind of blown away. You know what I mean? I'm like 8,000 miles from home, and like somebody knows who I am. I mean, it wasn't like, a superstar, but it was like
but it's
that
cool.
one person. It was wild. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
fucking wild.
So, who are you? Like, who is Matt Wenning outside of powerlifting? Because I know that you're into muscle cars. Obviously, you ride Harleys. Like, what other hobbies you got, brother?
A lot of the hobbies I have are, they're like that kind of mechanical stuff. My dad was a diesel mechanic, so for me, being very relaxing. Well, unless something doesn't go my way and like it gets to be a pain in the ass to work on, I like going out and wrenching on stuff. So I restored a 1967 Harley Davidson completely from nut to bolt up. I got a couple of my uncle's old school Suzuki muscle bikes from the 70s that I completely restored.
Nice.
I like doing stuff like that, but it's more like individual. For me, I like kind of having my own free time, my own like alone time, which I think was a big draw for me to powerlifting because it was just me against the weights.
Yeah.
But I knew eventually I needed a team of people to be better. But like for me, it's like my outside hobbies are very individual. Like a best day is like 80 degrees, or I don't know what you guys would call 30 Celsius. Is 30 Celsius comfortable? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
On a motorcycle?
Yeah, I mean, like, we're in Cairns, so that we're in the tropics. So
Yeah.
30 here is a big difference compared to where I'm from, down like it's South
Yeah.
Australia. But yeah, 30 is usually good, yeah.
Okay, so 30 degrees, and I'm on my Harley, and I just take a 6-hour ride and just get away out in the country. Me going in a highly populated area place or like stuff like that. To me, I'll do it, and I don't have like anxiety towards it, but it's just not what I would select.
Just not stoked.
So that's why I've built my house out in the country. I'm about 30 minutes from the gym, but my closest neighbor is probably 4,000 feet, or like, I'm trying to think meters, like at least 1,000 meters away.
Yeah.
I don't like being stuffed in.
No, I'm the same.
So that is that, and I don't know. I'm weird in some ways. I like going and visiting old cemeteries and digging up where people are like where they're buried. Like I'm gonna go and see the Ultimate Warrior's grave. He's from my home state.
Yeah.
I've been to Eazy-E's grave from NWA and in LA. I've been to Jimi Hendrix's grave and Bruce Lee's grave in Seattle.
Oh, wow. Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Life size.
Yeah, oh yeah, I see him.
Life
Is that
size.
Jean-Claude Van Damme over on this
Van
side?
Damme, yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
100%
Yeah.
80s.
So,
And,
dude, if you guys ever can, go fly to Seattle and see Bruce Lee's grave. It's
I'd love
unreal.
to. Brandon,
Super
right next to him.
magical. Yeah. I went and saw where Kurt Cobain lived under the bridge outside of Seattle.
Yeah.
I like seeing weird shit like that.
Man.
I don't know why. It's just like
I'm
almost,
100% the same way. I'm 100% the same way.
meditating,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think
People
of
are
other famous
overrated.
places.
Individuals are good, but people in general are overrated, brother. Trust me, I work in the hospitality. They're overrated. I'm the same way. Like individual sports, I did motocross, boxing, powerlifting. Yeah, that's cool. Sorry, go on. I cut you off.
Yeah, no, you're fine. And then, I love going up to Detroit and seeing like Henry Ford's grave and the Dodge brothers and Continental brothers, and going to museums and seeing how we evolve with technology. If you guys ever can, especially foreign, if you guys can ever make it over to the Ford Museum in Detroit, it's unfucking real. Like just the ability, like people don't realize the technology that went into building those factories to make those cars. Like nobody had done that shit before.
They
And so he
created the
had a,
40-hour work week as well, right? That come from
yeah, they
Henry
created a
Ford.
bunch of that. Yeah. I mean, it was and like I love to go see old like foundries. So there's a place called Lehigh, PA, Pennsylvania, where we still have like, and it doesn't work anymore, but they've preserved it as a museum, as one of the places where they would make steel, like the old steel plants.
Yeah.
And it's unfucking real how big that must have looked in the 20s,
Yeah.
like 1920s. I couldn't imagine of coming in from the country to work and you see this factory that's farther than you can see.
Wow.
And it's, it's hundreds of feet tall and smokestacks and all this shit. You're thinking, how in the hell did they figure that out like 110 years ago to build all that out? It's almost alien driven, right? Like you don't see how the human brain can even fathom building anything of that nature. So that, to me, stuff like that, I just can sit and look at forever,
Yeah. The start of the Industrial Revolution right there. It created the world that we have around us.
Yeah.
I've got 2 more questions. Did you want any?
No, you go ahead, man.
So these are my final 2 questions that I ask everyone.
Okay.
Favorite movie? Or like a top
Like,
3?
give me you have to give me a genre because I got favorite movies like comedy, horror, action.
Or just bang out a few that stand out for you.
Oh shit! I watch a lot of movies, dude. That's what I'm trying to think.
Yeah. Me
It
too.
would
I
have to
used
be in my developing years. I would say my love of cars probably started from the movie Christine.
Oh, yeah.
Stephen King's movie, Bill
Yeah.
Carpenter's movie about the car that could come back to life. I remember that being super cool. And then that had a 1968 Charger in it. His friend had that car, and I remember wanting that even when I was like 5 years old. And that's what I have in the garage now is a 1970 Charger, which is the same body.
Yeah.
So some of that's why I have that car. Christine would be one of them as far as like horror and sci-fi. Comedy, I'd say probably, ooh, that's a tough one. I'm a huge like old school Eddie Murphy fan,
Yeah,
like
me
Coming to
too.
America.
Yeah.
I
48
really like
hours
old
and
school. Yeah, 48 hours. Yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh
80s
yeah,
80s
all
Eddie
those.
Murphy was peak Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
From like
Workout wise, I would say the videos that made me want to train and want to compete and want to lift would have been Schwarzenegger and Commando. That's one, definitely. I never was a huge Stallone fan early on. I could just tell he was kind of little and like I didn't give a fuck about him. I thought Arnold was way more
He's bigger,
badass.
yeah.
I would say Bloodsport would be another one that was kind of a big driver.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have the Bruce Lee movie, the one where he climbs up the ladder when he has to beat people from different types.
Yeah.
Game of Death.
Game of Death, that's that one right there.
Yeah.
Where he fights
Game of
Kareem at
Death
the
would be
top.
another one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those would be my ones that I'd say got me into working out or wanting to do something like working out.
Yeah.
Then you have a lot of different movies that make you think real deep. Like I like The Green Mile.
Yeah.
That's a great one. Legends of the Fall with Brad Pitt.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
Yeah, you have to watch that one. It's really good, but it's got a lot of views of like Wyoming, Montana, Yellowstone, which I thought probably gave me the drive to want to ride my motorcycle all the way across country multiple times.
Easy Rider, that would have been a big one, right?
Easy Rider's good, but it's so old and it's so poorly directed that it's hard to watch.
But the music,
The
man,
motorcycle scenes
cool.
are fucking awesome, but the rest of it's just so trippy and like you could tell
It's
whoever
really
wrote
of
it was
its
on
time.
way too much fucking LSD, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, I'd say those would be top. I'd say Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze is another one that's
Roadhouse is dope.
absolutely fucking killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that'd be probably pretty close. I mean, I could think about it for a while and get some more, but
yeah,
horror wise, Silence of the Lambs is there's no contestant to that.
Yeah, that's
in my
a really
opinion.
good movie. I would put Exorcist.
Yeah.
Just because like, and you like when you're comparing movies or anything really, sports movies, whatever, you got to look at what was around at the time, and like that Exorcist really holds up well. Like it's so
Yeah, you know another one that's in that same area roughly that I think's better, and I probably don't have the same opinion as a lot of people, but I like the first Poltergeist. I thought it was crazier than fucking Exorcist.
Yeah, you like the Poltergeist better.
Yeah, I think so. The first one, I think they started to get a little bit out of
Yeah.
control after that. Maybe
You,
the same thing with the Exorcist too, but
you know, when they're in the fucking all the skeletons and that come out of the ground. You know, they're real skeletons.
yeah,
You know, they were
yeah,
real
yeah.
skeletons. Yeah, they weren't
No
props.
shit.
Yeah, they were real skeletons.
That's pretty badass.
So
I mean,
now,
that freaked me out. But you
yeah,
know, again, that movie probably freaked me out too because of the age I was when it came out. I was like fucking 6.
yeah.
So
So
watching that at 6 years old probably gave me some type of a mental disorder, I'm sure.
yeah. And
But yeah, I'd say those would be my movies.
final question: have you ever had any supernatural experiences?
Oh, that's an interesting question. You know, my memory when I was a kid, I grew up next to a community pool, and you had to pay a yearly due, and it was just right across the street, literally right across the street. And I joined the swim team, and that was my first sport that I was really involved with hard, like at the age of 4. I remember being able to swim almost immediately.
Mm.
And I was so enamored with just going to the pool every day in the summer. Well, probably about a year and a half or 2 years after my car accident, swimming I gravitated towards even more because it didn't hurt my legs, right? And we had this contest to swim underwater, how far we could swim underwater. And again, I don't know if I remember this because it happened or, you know, I made it up in my head, but I could swim like 6 fucking laps underwater with no air. I remember just killing everybody by at least 2.5, 3 times the length that they could go. And it wasn't because I was physically more gifted than they were. It was almost like, for an instance, my body didn't need oxygen for however long that took.
Mm.
And I remember, you know, like, you know, when you're underwater and you need air, you start kind of getting that panic feeling.
Mm.
I never got that feeling. Like, I literally just came up after I hit the 6th lap, and I never came up for water. And I remember everybody just like stopping and being like, "How in the fuck did you do that?" And I'm like, "Dude, I just didn't feel like I ever needed air."
Yeah.
So I don't know if you call that supernatural, but I remember that happening to me, you know, but it's been so long ago. I don't know if that was real or
Mm.
not. I don't know. Another one
Well, you like
I
going.
can remember. It's not supernatural, but it was fucking psycho. I remember I was riding my dirt bike, which you can attest to. I was riding my dirt bike. I had a KX 250 when I was 15,
Nice.
and we had a place called, um, was it Haggard Trails, and it was like literally like 200 miles of trails down in southern Indiana across like 4 counties,
Mm.
and they had it laced like ski slopes where you had greens and reds and blacks were fucking nasty, right? Like they were like, you had to be a good rider to be on a black.
Mm.
Well, I was on this like medium trail, and I didn't see the sign that there was a black. And I'm fucking, I'm hammering, probably doing, in my guesstimate, 45, 50 miles an hour in the woods, which is fucking flying.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I fucking hit this jump, and it's just a drop off. And it's probably 12 feet. It's higher than a fucking basketball goal. I can tell you that.
Mm.
I hit it. And I remember when I hit it, I didn't notice it. It just came up to me because I'm in the woods.
Mm.
And I just remember my engine going, wing. And I'm like 12 feet in the air. And I remember just getting so fucking flipped out that I just kind of locked in.
Mm.
And when I hit the ground, I hit so fucking hard. I bottomed the frame and I landed it. And then I'm trying to balance out the rebound effect. And I damn near smoke a fucking tree. But then I just pull off the side. I pull my bike off. I set it over there. I look over up at it, and it's like I'm looking at the higher than the roof of a fucking house. And I'm thinking, holy shit! Like I just basically didn't die, and I should have died.
Yeah.
Well, I hear this fucking other. It's like a 4-stroke level motor, but it's not a twin. It's not a single cylinder. It sounds like a fucking V8, and it's a goddamn race buggy. And he doesn't know what trail he's on either.
Oh shit.
And he hits that motherfucker accidentally, and when he lands, he fucking fractures like 20 spots in his spine.
Shit.
I mean, I hear him hit, and he's fucking screaming, right? they got to med flight him out to the hospital. So I'm just standing there watching this dude basically break his back in 12 places
Shit.
after something that I just barely survived. And I didn't even get hurt. I
Yeah.
didn't even sprain an ankle or a wrist or nothing. And I remember that being almost feeling supernatural, like what in the fuck just happened here,
Yeah.
you know?
Whoa.
Dang.
So I don't know about anything else supernatural wise. You know, I feel like sometimes when I go visit my dad's gravesite, I feel like sometimes that can be a little not supernatural, but it's like a mixture of eerie and connected. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I
Yeah.
try to go out there a couple of times a year. The last time I went out there, I actually took my Charger that I completely restored, that 70 Charger with the Hellcat motor in it, and that was my dad's dream car too. And
That's
it was kind of
awesome.
interesting. I have a picture of posting it next to his tombstone. You know.
Yeah. You pull up and tell your dad, hey, look over there, look what I got.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, Matt. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. And like I said, we all think so highly of you. And, you know, I've been a big fan of you for a long time. So to sit and hear and chat with you after watching hundreds of hours of you online and that,
Yeah.
and not only that, but to find out that you're actually a really good bloke as well. You know,
Appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you taking the time. And I'm excited to check this book out when it comes out, brother.
Yeah, me too, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm always got a strong feeling for Australia. I remember going over there in 2012. I loved it. Everybody treated me so nice over there, and
Yeah.
it's nice to hear that people appreciate what I do, because there's a lot of shit on the internet that just, gets you depressed a lot of times,
Yeah, no, I feel you, man. There's a lot of people that, if you can't do it, the people that can't do talk, you know, they just talk shit.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but
it's just tough sometimes because you don't realize who you're impacting with these videos. Like,
yeah,
I put the videos out, and sometimes I feel like they don't get enough traction, or they're not reaching the people that I want to reach. And, people sometimes, although they watch it and they're respectful of it or they get a lot out of it, they don't reciprocate, like hitting the like button or making a comment, to where I don't know who it reaches or
yeah,
how appreciative they are of it. I think people just think it's just kind of like, whatever, like
no,
Matt post stuff, but I've been through 5 or 6 different times of my post training career where I've literally almost just focused on completely getting off the internet completely, just because of not because of how I've been treated. It just feels like, it's just such a grind. Like, it's just, you don't feel like you're really making as big of a difference as you want to make,
yeah.
you know?
Well, you've made a big difference for us, and
Yeah, I think you'd be
Thank you.
surprised. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you got
Yeah.
a lot of
So
love
that
down
makes
under, man.
makes me feel better, gives me some more steam.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate you, man, and you know, there's a lot of hours of content that you put out, and you put out there for free. You know, like I was a Patreon for a while,
Yeah.
so yeah, I didn't only
That
ever
was a whole
watch.
nother debacle of them assholes. Those guys ended up basically shutting down my channel for giving people a source to buy peptides.
True. Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
And it's not even illegal over here.
No, it's not.
And there's 500 other channels on Patreon that all they do is sell and talk about peptides. And I'm like, what the fuck is this all about? Because, if I was talking about anabolic steroids or growth hormone, I would understand them doing that, because that's, those are federally controlled substances. But I'm like, they wouldn't even let me fight it back. I even had a lawyer send a thing and everything, because that was a pretty good amount of money I was making on Patreon and trying to help people, and they just shut it down with no warning, no nothing. And so
That's
I'm like,
fine.
well, fuck you guys.
Yeah,
Switched everything over to Trainer Heroic, and that happened 1 week before I started my PhD.
yeah, true. Fucking now's
Just
the timing.
unbelievable.
I tell you what, once
Yeah, right.
because like I was saying before, I'm getting out of what I've been doing for a living. Like, I appreciate my bosses, and
Yeah,
there's, even though it fucking sucks and I've hated my life for the last few years, like there's positives, you know, like not everything is
yeah,
bad. Like I brought property out of it, and but it's
sure.
such a bad lifestyle. So once I get out of that and I sort myself, I'll be hitting up your new version of Patreon, and I'm going to be getting back into it.
Yeah, we just do everything on Train Heroic now.
Train
They're
Heroic.
very
I'll be
they're very yeah, and I just post everything on the message boards on there.
Yeah, I'll be definitely looking into it because, like I said, I didn't watch straight away. I wish I watched maybe more in the beginning, and I didn't push as hard, so I didn't get all these fucking injuries being a meathead, you know. But I learned more from you than probably anyone. So again,
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, you guys mean a lot to me.
No, you mean a lot to us too, brother. And we'll call this an episode.
Yeah, absolutely. But just keep doing what you're doing, dude.
Yeah,
Don't stop.
don't stop. We love it.
Not a problem.
Yeah, much appreciated. You and Dave Tate. Dave Tate's another, he puts out great content as well.
Have you guys done an interview with him yet?
No, you're the first powerlifter, strength athlete I've ever had on. I've had quite a few. I've had a handful of UFC guys. I've had Love Morton on. He's multi-time world boxing champion, and he'll be running for president of South Africa. He's coming back on. What else have I had? I've had Ryan Hughes. He raced motocross in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yep.
He was around the time of Jeremy McGrath and those guys.
Man, yeah. They were all like, some of my heroes because I grew up, my dad, he rode Harleys, but we raced motocross when I was a kid. So that was pretty cool meeting him and getting a chat with him because, like, he was on the very first Crusty Demons movie. Like, I knew who he was when I was like 5 years old. So, and he was pretty nice, so I had him on.
That's awesome.
That was cool. I was pretty pumped for that. Because, like, we're not industry insiders. I'm just a normal guy that works in a pub, so to meet celebrities like you guys, and some of you have been really nice.
I don't know what the classification of celebrity is, but
well, you're a celebrity to me. Ken Shamrock. I had Ken Shamrock on, like that was.
Oh, awesome! I know him really well.
Yeah. Oh, true.
I know of him really well. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's all right. Yeah, Ken.
He was a fucking beast. Yeah,
man, 100%.
Again, he won a lot of his shit because he was just stronger than everybody else too.
Yeah. Well, he said he benched 600. Obviously, that wouldn't be to competition standards. That would be probably a bounce off the chest and all that. But still, like, he was strong as fuck.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So yeah, that was pretty cool to have him on. But yeah. But we'd definitely like to get some more strength athletes in the future for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, it's just, I think most of them would be pretty open to doing it.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for your time. And to all the lads out there, we appreciate you sticking around for another episode. And we'll keep in touch. And when you drop that book, I definitely want a copy, brother.
All right, man. We'll talk to you guys later.
No worries. Thanks,
care.
Mate.
Catch up.
See ya.
See ya. So, now we've had Matt Wenning on and, obviously powerlifting royalty. And what did you think?
Oh, that was awesome. Just some of the wild stories from, old school powerlifting like Westside. I think in this country we've been pretty limited with that stuff. And, some of us older guys have had access to that when we were first starting out, but I reckon a lot of the younger generation just have no idea what Westside even is, or even equipped powerlifting for that matter. So it was really cool to hear some of those old stories and just how intense it was.
Yeah, like I said, I've always been, when I said it as well, I 100% meant it. If I could meet anyone in the strength sport spectrum, it would be him. So for him to come on and be gracious with his time and, it meant a lot. So, and I thought it was a great chat. We touched on a few things. We went through his history of with Westside and how he got started, and I dug into a bit about who he is as a person and some of the trials he's had. It was good.
Yeah, I think it was just a real genuine, very honest, really open conversation about lots of different things. So
yeah,
that was fantastic.
And for the lads out there, Elias and I, we've known each other for what, like 10 years, something
Must
like
be at least 10 years now.
Yeah, it'd be a little bit more than.
Possibly more.
Yeah, because I come to your opening of your gym. Unfortunately, I lived a little bit further away, and it didn't really, was kind of inconvenient, the distance.
At the time, yeah.
Yeah, so, but,
Yeah, that was way back in 2015.
Yeah, yeah. And, but yeah, we've known each other for a while. I always thought really highly of you. You've done really well with, the powerlifting scene up here, because there wasn't really one to be at all.
There was no such thing, really. I mean, nobody up here really
created
knew
it.
what powerlifting was until we sort of revived it. There was, back in the 80s, there was probably a bit of a scene. There was a guy called John Darby who did a lot of powerlifting, was quite a good powerlifter in his time. But after that, it kind of just died.
Yeah.
And then in 2014, I started running comps again.
And maybe we could get some more strength athletes in the future, and maybe we could do this again.
That'd be great, mate. I'd be happy to come back anytime.
Thank you. And to reiterate, all the lads, thanks for sticking around. And I've been very blessed to have great guests. And I'm blessed for you guys to stick around, who do stick around and watch to the end. So like, subscribe, do all that stuff. Dislike if you didn't like it. Do whatever you like. But till next time.